Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Civil Gore Podcast. This is your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And this is one of our special roundtable episodes where we have our usual victims, I should say, as they're going to join us as we are going to talk about the new Halloween Ends from 2022. So I'll do a quick introduction. Of course, you know, Tim and I. We have our man on the street, Stephen Cohn. We have our other good friend, Ken Cook, who is now, it's a different Ken from last time because now he looks at films with a much more sensitive eye. Thanks to our next guest, who you might know, starring in the latest awesome entry to the VHS series, who she's in the Gawker segment, one of the best segments in there. And her name, of course, is Emily Sweet. So
Hi.
we have us all together here to discuss Halloween Ends. So Tim, do you want to do the quick, we'll get it out of the way before we go into the small amount of praise for this film.
Yes. I will do the housekeeping here. Halloween Ends 2022, directed by David Gordon Green, starring Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie, Andy Matichak as Allison, James Jude Courtney as the Shape, Rowan Campbell as Corey, Will Patton as Frank, Jesse C. Boyd as Officer Milani, and Kyle Richards as Lindsay. The saga of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode comes to a spine-chilling climax in the final installment of this trilogy.
But does it? I guess
No.
we'll find out.
No,
Coming
it
up
doesn't.
here.
The franchise dies tonight.
Yes. So yeah, well, so this one may be a different kind of response you may used to get from Tim and I. We you know, of course we're going to be respectful, but you know, we do, you know, we want to be honest. So that's why we, you know, these roundtables are good because we got everybody here. So it's not just us two giving our opinion here. But I think this will work in the usual roundtable format where I'll kind of like mediate and kind of give us some topics and stuff. And we'll kind of go through and we'll all, you know, kind of give our opinions. And then we'll go through some specifics that we like, dislikes, and we'll do our final rating. And then we can even do the current trilogy ranking, which has got to be the easiest ranking ever on the planet for these three.
Yes.
But I think this will be fun. We all have drinks in hand. I think Cone does. I don't know. He had a little technical difficulty, so we don't even know what he has in his hands anymore at this point. We saw a plug and a rug, but we'll see. So anyway, so first I think we'll do like what we did kind of last time. We'll go through the specific characters. I kind of put them in like from I think rank of importance to this movie. So the first one I think we'll go through I guess and these are some new characters here. The first I just grouped them together because they don't deserve to be done individually, and that's the band punks, as I like to say, which was a couple of high school band people, I guess. But I didn't know there were band toughs out there. You know, like band street toughs, right? There's not.
There aren't. I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's weird starting with the characters because there's so much I want to talk about. But we'll get to it. We'll get to it. The band punks thing. I don't understand why they didn't make these guys like jocks or, you know, like football quarterbacks or something besides band punks. It was a weird decision unless you're really just trying to make Corey seem like the biggest wimp on the planet. I don't have anything great to say about it. It was a weird decision to make these marching band members. I don't get why a 24-year-old man is getting bullied around by a bunch of high school kids. That's the first piece of the film I don't even understand.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
But
so we'll go around.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go around here. Let's go to Cone first because Cone, your daughter is involved in band, and so you have a good idea of what. So how close to actual band members were this group?
Oh, this infuriated her for several reasons. Yeah, she plays mellophone in the high school marching band. And first of all, you do not wear your uniform except for band days, and then you take it off immediately so you don't get anything on it. So the fact that one girl was going around wearing it was one thing. Haircuts were not regulation, and band kids are not bullies. They are just not. It's so over the top.
See, it took me a while to realize they were all band people. I thought the main kid, the obnoxious kid, was like, the way I took it at first is I thought he was like the bully, like the jock guy. The one other kid that was like his like that like friend that they all seem to have that's not either like an athlete, not anything, but he's kind of like his little like lackey. That's who I thought it was. But then everywhere else they described him as band people. So
Right.
But yeah, so I kind of had the same thing. I was like, it didn't make sense. Ken, what about you and the band group there?
Right. Well, so since I'm all new and improved, Ken, I'm thinking about things differently. In fairness, I think those kids did a good job with the roles, and you really want to see them get their heads knocked off by the end of the movie because they were jerks. Yeah. I totally agree with what Tim said there. If you look at the characters and the aspect of how they fit in the movie, and Steve, like you were saying, my experience in high school was the band kids were all pretty nice. Yeah. I'm sure that hasn't really changed much. I'm sure there are always exceptions, but that seemed just sort of, I don't know, uncharacteristic of what you'd think of as a band kid. They're usually pretty accepting. So the kids themselves, good job. Making characters that were unlikable that you want to see killed, good job, fair enough. Did it make sense to me? Nah, I'm with Tim on this one. I don't think so.
Yeah. All right, what about you, Emily?
Ken, I'm so proud of you.
That means a lot. That means a lot to me. I'm trying so hard.
First of all, this is embarrassing. I guess I just did not pay attention because I did not know that they were band people. Like that's, I guess.
Don't feel bad. I didn't realize it until I read an article after the movie.
Right. Same with me. Like I thought one person might have been in the band, but that was it. Like I thought it was a group, just a group of friends. But yeah.
Also my sister played the flute in marching band, and she's the nicest soul you'll ever meet. And so it didn't seem like typical band people. Maybe they were trying to think outside the box, be like, oh, let's switch it up and make the band people evil. I thought since there was hardly any kills in this movie that they were just there to be killed.
That is true. Yeah. Well, and remember, there is one thing it was funny as I thought of as we were going around. A point to be made is like every Halloween movie does have those kind of like the obnoxious kind of like kid level people in there. So, and I guess maybe they had to find some way to get those in there, because if it's all about adults, the adult bullies just are not bullies anymore. They're more just like a criminal aspect. So maybe that's what it was. But I'm kind of in agreement with everybody. Like I think what everyone said, I think we nailed it all pretty much accurately. It just was an awkward choice, but as what they were there for, they did a good job. The acting was good for it because you hated them and they were really obnoxious. So yeah. Next one is going to be Officer Mullaney, and that's the I guess they're Allison's former boyfriend in there, where I could start off in this one. I thought pretty much he was like almost exactly the way an ex-boyfriend / ex-cop is portrayed in every movie. So it's like, but yeah, I mean, I thought he was just like, again, I think I kind of, to Emily's point, I think he was there probably to just add a slight bit of backstory to what Allison was doing, and then to be left to be killed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Tim?
Well, the only reason I think he was in there was to show how bad and Allison's taste in men is, because
good point.
That's the only thing I could think of, because he was. It's another problem I have with this movie. I don't feel like her character. I don't feel like her character would have chosen these kind of people, because she doesn't seem like that kind of person. She doesn't seem like a young woman that has that poor taste and judgment, I guess. And so, but maybe you have this kind of jerk ex-boyfriend to kind of show that she doesn't really have a good, maybe just have the best judgment when it comes to her romantic relationships. That's the only thing I could figure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you remember I'm sorry, Emily, real quick. I was going to say, like, remember the first one, we all thought Cameron was kind of this like a-hole in the first one, but then in Kills, he got a redeeming arc. So like, yeah, so that it goes to your point even more. It's like, why is now like, it seems like she does kind of know that there's she kind of does, like her character is not historically picking bad, I guess, per se, but I guess it's maybe to show maybe she isn't great. I'm sorry, Emily, what were you gonna say?
No, that's okay. I thought that was because she, her mom died. It's 4 years later, and she hasn't been able to really fully recover from her mom dying, and so she thought, oh, a cop is a good idea because at least he can keep me safe, maybe from Michael Myers. But then it just turns out that he wasn't a good person, and so then she's like, oh great, of course I picked like the bad cop, quote unquote. That's how I took it. Was like, yeah, she usually doesn't make those choices, but she's kind of at a loss because her mom died, and she was like, oh, at least maybe I can be safe this way with this cop boyfriend. But he was just a jerk.
Mr. Cohn.
I'm playing off of what Emily said. It's the same thing where she said so few people understood her, and again, having the police on her side, one to protect her and two to understand her is it's an important part. I mean, that said, though, she's now had 3 boyfriends who have died, so it's gonna be hard to date after that.
Yeah, if there's a side fan fiction of her future romances, I kind of like to see that where she went with that.
Yeah, but I mean, he's in 3 scenes. He's just there to be an
Yeah.
asshat, and like you said, just often. So
Yeah. All right, let's go to the softer side of Ken.
Again, the acting was solid. I had never a problem with that. Same thing with this character here. I think you guys nailed it, Steve and Emily, both on this one. I kind of thought of this one as it didn't necessarily not make sense to me, Tim, for her to pick a guy like this. Didn't have a dad for most of her life. Looking for a strong male in her life, I guess. And certainly, feeling like she needs protection from somebody. So a cop seems like a natural choice, and ends up with a guy who's a D-bag, a total jerk. So, yeah, it kind of made sense to me in that sense. Plot wise, again, I'm not sure where they were trying to go with this. It felt like maybe they had some ideas for this guy and that really just never played out, or maybe he really just was supposed to be that guy who was an a-hole that you all wanted to see die. That worked. But, I felt like somewhere along the way, maybe he was going to pop in and have some sort of greater role, trying to save her, or, turning a page and becoming a good guy by doing something important to help her out. But again, none of that came to fruition. Along with about 1,000 other things that were missed opportunities. But yeah.
I just want to say, save those thoughts when you say like, well, maybe it was because of, save those thoughts in your head, because there's a segment coming up where I kind of address those things, the what ifs. So I want to kind of keep that in the back of your mind, because I think that'll be a fun segment there. The next character I want to go through is, and this one to me was one of my favorite actors, period, hands down. And I loved his character throughout the thing. And I think he got a weird twist here, and that's Deputy Frank Hawkins. I think Will Patton is amazing. I love everything he's in. Normally he's so great in his movies. But they kind of, I assume that since he's listed as Frank, I assume he is now completely 100% retired off the force. He is just now kind of living his days, I guess, licking his own wounds and shopping for unhealthy meals. But I feel like it's and I saw this point in another article, so I'm not going to take full credit for this, but it's the way he was with Laurie in the last one, they were really bonding and close together. And now 4 years later, that's they ran into each other and they both had this oh, so good to see you, kind of a thing, they hadn't seen each other. So where, I thought that was an awkward choice. I mean, for both of them, we can hit that when we go to Laurie too. But why I felt they gave him he seemed almost slightly out of place when he kind of was in there. And I was kind of a little disappointed in that. But overall, I mean, Will Patton did great what he did. But you know what I'm saying? Does anyone else feel that way? That
I read that same article. And it's another example of how sloppy the writing was in this. I don't know why they had to set it 4 years later, because the 4 years thing actually introduced more problems than it helped the movie.
Yeah.
If this movie had taken place a year later, a lot of the plot lines would have made more sense. So I don't understand why they had to have such a big gap, because it really doesn't make any sense in the context of the movie. So the fact that they did not keep in contact for 4 years after the events of Halloween Kills doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And there's no explanation for it. But having said that, I love the Frank Hawkins character. I thought the whole relationship between him and Laurie in this movie was really sweet. I liked I'm a big softie at heart. I love the thought that him and Laurie are going to go to Japan and look at the cherry blossoms. I thought that was great. I like that she gets her happy ending. I loved all that. I loved seeing those two making a connection and maybe hitting up a romantic relationship and living happily ever after. I like that. I'm a romantic at heart as much as I like horror movies and crazy stuff like that. I'm the one that watches Hallmark Christmas movies. So that fairy tale ending was fine by me, and I loved his. He did a really good job of playing a kind of an awkward suitor to Laurie. In
right. Well, yeah, and that's what I was trying to explain it properly. I felt like he just didn't get he almost should have been more part of her life. I would have almost loved to see all that you just said but going on, like maybe a scene with like him over there when she's trying to bake the pumpkin pie, or then maybe cooking a dinner together. Like, why 4 years later shouldn't have been that? But I guess they wanted to show that, I guess, to the audience, they're rekindling, but I feel like you didn't need that based off the events of the last one. I think we could have jumped into that already, and maybe in the course of the movie, maybe them having like a little bit of a distance kind of a thing, maybe like a sequence, like maybe he's like maybe them have a little spat or so, and then come back to do the cherry blossom scene, because I did think that was cute too, so, but I don't know, I just felt like it was like the distance and then bringing him back, like that scene of them just running into each other if they hadn't seen each other in like the smallest town in America, I mean, it's
which
like,
a town which they point out is so small that Corey is basically a pariah in this town from something that happened 4 years ago. That's how small this town is. Nobody's forgotten it.
Yeah, it's funny if you look at this. I'm going to compare this later again, but I'll give a slight preview. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the latest Star Wars sequels, where Force Awakens and Last Jedi literally are back to back, and then the third one skips all this time, and then all this new stuff gets introduced, and it's when you're supposed to be wrapping it up. And that's always like a kind of a problem, but we'll get into that when we go to the film. But let's go through. We'll start with Emily this time on Deputy Hawkins.
Sure. Oh, he warms my heart. I would love to have seen more of him. And I agree with what you guys are saying. But what I will say is, I think, and I'm not trying to like super rely on this, but I think when she lost her daughter, she went total recluse. And just did not want to see anyone, needed time to realize like, okay, I need to get over this. I need to put Michael Myers behind me. And like, the only reason why I can really suspend that disbelief, and this is not supposed to be like, oh, like sad bringing the mood down, but I know personally that when my sister died, my mom and my dad didn't see anyone for like years and years and years and years and years. So I can believe that now after all this time,
That's
after 4
point.
years, he's like, okay, I'm gonna like go to the grocery store and I'm gonna say hi to people and I'm gonna this and that. So I know it seems far-fetched for a Halloween movie. Like, I get that it's a movie and we need to like speed things along. But in my head, I can be like, okay, she's just it took her a while to get over losing her daughter. She now has her granddaughter living with her. They're dealing with, how many times have we heard Jamie Lee Curtis say trauma? She's dealing with trauma.
Wow, you did that pretty good, actually, the way you said that. Yeah. Emily's looking for the Halloween prequel now, where she plays young Laurie Strode.
Down.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point. I probably got caught up in, see, that's the thing. It's like, that's what's good about these roundtables, because each one of us probably get caught up with a specific kind of thing to this movie, and then we kind of latch onto that. So it's good to hear all the different.
Well, the thing too is you don't, if you dislike certain parts of the movie, you start looking for other areas to dislike, but kind of naturally. So you tend to like just everything just kind of snowballs. So it is good to hear a perspective that actually makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to you, Ken. This time we'll go reverse order.
Yeah, so I have to say, I just got totally blown away by Emily's line of thought there. I think that works really well. I felt the same as you were saying. I felt like the 4 years. Where do we find out it's been 4 years? Do you remember?
Did she say it in the monologue in the beginning?
Yeah, it's tacked on. I feel like the whole movie was shot and they made that crap up later. Because the way it's shot, in a lot of ways, if you look at it, it feels like it could have fit a year later and it would have totally made sense, right? But somehow they say, hey, 4 years later. Now, when I rewatched, I forgot to look for that specifically. I did rewatch, and like you, Tim, well, not like you, but like you, I got angry. Watching it the second time, I got pretty upset. But anyway, from Will Patton's perspective, the guy's a great actor. I love him. I think he did a great job. And they kind of played the old people romance pretty well. It was a little awkward. It was kind of cute, heartwarming. And now that Emily said it that way, it's actually believable. That makes sense to me. I don't think that's what they were going for. I don't think they thought
you get benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. She did preface that. She did preface her statement with that. Yeah.
Because that's the thing to do here. So I'll feel like maybe I made a mistake here and didn't put that together better. But yeah, it wasn't obvious. I think they could have done a little bit better job explaining how that was the case. Just a little statement about, hey, it's the first time in so many years we've been out to the grocery store. We would have all gotten like, oh yeah, right. That makes sense. So maybe not smoothly done, but okay. I'm willing to live with that now. Thanks. Like you said, Ryan, I like how this expands how we see things a little bit.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Cohn, you're the tiebreaker. No, look at
That's fine. I like, you know, I understand where the character's coming from. The other thing is you have to remember he's dealing with the guilt of what happened the original Halloween night. He's dealing with how the town fell apart 4 years ago. So he might, by the same token, just, you know, be looking inward and blaming himself and not want to deal with people. That said, I still think he was in the police. I still think he was in the police department because when after Laurie makes the suicide call, he pulls up in a police car.
Oh, you're right. That's right.
During the end. So he might still be on the force.
Yeah. You know, that actually may have been just a choice to kind of give him more of a character, not just a police officer that she knows. Maybe that's why he was credited as Frank, as to kind of give him more of just like a regular guy kind of. Yeah. Actually, that's a good point. See, these roundtables just like open our. You know what? I love this movie, Neff. No, I'm not kidding. No. I think it would take a lot more whiskey sours and a lot more discussion to get there. But the next one, I know we're going to start with Emily on this one because this is her favorite. And I'm going to say this right off the bat too. I think she was not in this nearly enough, and that is Lindsay Wallace. So Emily, you could start with your favorite.
Here's a big pet peeve of mine. We need more Kyle Richards.
Yes, I agree.
Love Kyle Richards. I am, it's mortifying. I say this every time I talk about Kyle Richards. I love her because I love the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It's embarrassing. It's a guilty pleasure. So I want to see more Kyle. And the only thing I'll say, so I'm disappointed that there wasn't that, but I'm very, very glad she didn't die because I was expecting her to die. But I was disappointed that at the end, when the whole town is like marching, where was Lindsay? She was missing. She was MIA. I felt like she needed to be there at the end to like see Michael off to his final destination.
I think she was filming the Real Housewives, actually. No, but you actually, I want to tell you something that I put this fact down on my cheat sheet just for you because I think you would like this in the trivia. That I gotta now scroll and find this, but this was a very interesting fact that apparently she technically in all the Halloween like timelines, she is the only character that was in the first one that made it to the last one that did not die in any way, shape, or form. Because if you think about it, technically in Resurrection, Laurie Strode died. In part 6, if you go to that timeline, she was killed off camera, off screen. Lindsay Wallace actually had there was also a comic book with her character, as she was like this reporter I read today too, where it's like, I think it was called, it was Halloween. It was also called Halloween 3 something. It had like another title, but where she's like a reporter and she goes back. And remember, Lindsay Wallace actually was in, I think it was part 4. She came back in her character. She was the friend of the other main character that was Danielle Harris's like stepsister. She was the one that picked her up and drove in, but it might have been deleted in a lot of the cuts where she was. So it was a lot like, I don't think she was there by name. Like they didn't call her Lindsay in it, but that if you look in the credits, that's who it was.
Got it.
So she actually did come back. So she was the only one. Oh, here it is. It says Laurie Strode and Lindsay are the only characters to survive from Halloween 1978 to the end of Halloween Ends 2022. Lindsay is actually the only character to survive every appearance in the series, living through Halloween 1, 2, 4, 9, 12, and 13, where Laurie was killed off in 4, slated to die off screen, 8 and 10, director's cut only. So,
what about Frank? Wasn't he in the original as well?
No, he was not actually there. He was retconned into that.
Yeah.
Through him. So but technically, yes, you could say, but he wasn't in the movie. Lindsay was actually, but she was not played by Kyle, in Halloween 4, obviously. But so I figured that was the thing. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't know why they gave her a role, but I think it's because originally she was not scheduled to be in this. But I read in one of the articles that it said she actually was, because she was so popular in Halloween Kills that they convinced her to come back. So I think they kind of, the reason why she wasn't in it a lot, I think, is because they kind of just fit her in.
Well, in The Real House of Beverly Hills, she's sitting at a restaurant with Lisa Rinna, and she said, guess what? The director wants me back for 3.
See? There you go.
She went back, and then she called in on this season when she was filming wherever they were filming, and she was like, oh, I'm exhausted or something.
I just wish she would have had more of a presence in there. I think it would have been great to have her be more of a role, because I think, a lot of, it was, I mean, at that point, other than Laurie, and Michael, she's the only legacy character still there.
Yeah, she had like such a big role last time, well, bigger role last time, and she survived his attack last time that I was just expecting. That's all. I was just expecting her to have a bigger role, but I'm happy she lived. So
yeah, that was good. Yeah, and it's weird that she was where she was. She was just like all of a sudden just tending bar now. All of a sudden, but I don't know why she didn't like have. Should have given her a more like I don't know, like maybe she was like grief counseling or something like like another kind of thing. But anyway, what about you? We'll go to this way now. We'll go to Ken.
Sorry, you surprised me. I don't know what this way is.
Oh, sorry. To the right of me, which is where you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys already kind of nailed where I'm at on this one. This character felt to me tacked on. It was very clear to me that they had her back because she was popular. Honestly, I didn't know she was in anything else, Emily. I hate to be that guy, but I had no idea she was in other stuff that you're watching. But great, right? She did fine. She did well. But yeah, thrown in as a bartender with sort of this random scene or two, and then what? If you're going to make her a character that survives from the beginning to the end, give her some sort of substance. They really, again, I don't want to go into missed opportunities because we could go on for 3 hours on that one or longer. But this one felt just sort of like, you stuck her in there, man. Like, do more with this character. You got an actress who doesn't suck in a role that doesn't suck. So give her something to do. And they just didn't do that. So it's a little disappointing. I felt like, okay, what's going to happen? And then it was really nothing, so sort of a letdown for me, but not the actress, just the way they wrote the character, I guess.
All right, Mr. Cohn.
Same thing, underused. I mean, it was important. As you saw, she's one of the few characters who's still connected to Laurie. And it plays out both when she's at their house for dinner and then later at the bar when she's like, listen, you were right about Corey. Of course, they had to make the name rhyme with Laurie, but
Yeah.
But
I didn't even catch that
like,
until you
right.
said that, but yeah.
Yeah, but she's like, you're right, because when the dad of the baby, the kid in the beginning was saying, he's like, I looked in his eyes, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So so she's important to the plot, but yeah, she wasn't used as much as they could have or should have.
Yeah. All right, Tim. We'll call him Red Tim tonight because he's got a red background.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she was underused. That goes without saying, but I think it's representative of the other flaws with this movie in that it seems like nothing from Halloween Kills was carried over to this film. It's like they never planned out. I mean, am I wrong? This was going to be a trilogy from the start, right?
Yeah.
So
it's almost like they filmed them at the same time. Weren't talking to each other.
I don't understand. What I don't understand is this, and it happened in Star Wars.
They had the same director this time, at least.
Yeah,
Star Wars at least had 3 different directors.
Exactly.
Well, two
I don't
different,
understand why.
Yeah.
If you're going to make a trilogy, why are you not planning out the trilogy in advance? I don't understand. I mean, at least the major plot points, but it's like they just came up with these movies by completely separate writing teams at completely separate times, have no tie into each other. And it just boggles my mind why the characters aren't consistent throughout. I mean, obviously this character is completely underused. I can understand if it was like a real life, like she couldn't be available for filming, or I understand that stuff like that happens, but it's just weird. It as a fan, when you're watching these movies in pretty close proximity to each other as they were released, you're going to notice stuff like that where you don't have continuity between characters, between films for a trilogy that you created. Like, why are you? I mean, I'm not the one that created it. You created it, so you should be giving me a cohesive trilogy.
Time out on this one?
Yeah,
we're going to go there, but I think you're getting ahead of all of us. We all want a piece of this one.
Yeah.
I know exactly where you're going.
Yeah.
So take a breath. Emily, you're welcome.
Ken's reeling me back in. Reeling me back in.
Rewind.
Look at the joy you just gave Emily, Ken, by like taking her tutelage and applying it in real world settings.
This is going to be recurring.
Unlike Michael, I looked in her eyes and there was something there. It was goodness, right? And it's in me now.
It is.
It's her fault.
It's sweetness too.
Preventing Tim from going on rants is going to be a recurring theme of this round.
Yeah. Yeah, see, and that's something that went through the whole trilogy.
I don't want you stealing all this. So let's come back to that.
Okay.
But,
all right. Well, we'll move on. Now, here's the next 4, the meat characters of the thing. And we'll start with Allison. It's, at this time, who wants to start first? We'll go this way. We'll make it. Anyone want to start with Allison?
I can start, and I promise not to rant.
Okay.
I like Allison's character. I thought she was inconsistent from the first 2 movies. Now hers, I struggle because there are ways, like Emily said, when she justified the Hawkins Strode connection and why maybe that wasn't
that sounds like a Big Bang Theory title.
Yeah.
The Hawkins Strode connection.
Why that wasn't as weird as we thought it was initially. There's some ways I can justify Allison's behavior based on her past trauma and stuff, but it's one of those things where I still, at a gut feeling level, feel like she wasn't acting true to her character. And I feel that if you have an issue where you have to make up fan theories about why somebody's acting a way they're acting, then that's a sign of poor writing, because you're not giving the audience enough information to know what's going on in the movie. You're having to make them come up with that on their own to justify your character inconsistencies or plot holes. So, I really like her character. I love the actress. I thought she was fantastic, but some of the decisions she makes in here, especially with her relationship to Corey, to me just don't ring true. Again, chalk it up to, being blinded by love or past trauma. I guess you could justify some of this, but for me, I didn't get it.
All right, I'll go around now. Since Tim started, I'll go around clockwise. So Emily, you're next on my screen.
Sure. I'm gonna just use that same card that I used the last time for what Strode Hawkins connection.
Yeah, the Strode Hawkins connection, as it will now be known, thanks to Tim.
I'm trying to use scientific terms so I don't get angry.
Tim, I do agree with you. I think though it wasn't in her character, but I could see how she could just be so completely different. And I also have been duped by people I've dated who I thought were really cool and great, and then they were jerks. I don't think they were murderers, but so I don't know. I thought she did a great job. I got a little frustrated with her character, I think, for reasons that you kind of stated, but I can justify them in my head. That's not kind of a cop-out answer, but that's where I'm sticking.
Since I'm next on my screen. I kind of think the same thing. I think originally I thought, like, I was like, the romance happened way too fast. But then again, I was like, it's funny, through all our conversations now, and again, this could be now the discussion kind of putting this into my head, but there is something to be said, like maybe she's just trying to get like back to some kind of normalcy. So she's linking on to anything like she can quick. But I just felt like it seemed like she went from, I'm not interested, stop trying to fix me up, grandma, to like all of a sudden, like, I'm going to jump your bones in a creepy old abandoned house kind of thing. Yes. And it seemed like, and like Allison always seemed to kind of be the level-headed character throughout the first two. And then to make her now crazy. But granted, now she she literally had a grandmother who was kind of absent through her life in the first movie and just kind of started getting back into then bringing this trauma now to her. Trauma has, however Emily said, the perfect young Jamie Lee Curtis version. And then now she lost her father, then she lost her mom in right away again, and now she's like watching. It could be also, there could be, and again, I know Tim and Ken are going to be like, stop making things up, excuses for this movie, but maybe there could be something where she's now kind of almost a little frustrated that her grandmother seemed to now put it behind her when it monopolized 40 plus years of her life, and she's moved on now. I know, I see Ken rolling his eyes, but I don't know. I could, you're right. I could be making up stuff to justify it, but and we'll never know because, we don't know what their thought processes are. But if you look at it that way, granted, if it makes the movie easier to tolerate, I'll do it. But yeah, we shouldn't have to make this stuff up. We shouldn't have to necessarily assume it should be there. Like Tim said, that it could be a flaw in the writing, but I don't know. I just think I think Andi Matichak is great in her movies, other movies that I've seen her in. Like, she was great in that movie Son, I thought. And so she's got a good actress. She's a good actress. So anything in this that probably was off was probably because, I hate to say it, is probably because of the writing, and it just seemed it's a little disjointed based on the last two. But all right, I'll go to Ken since he's seething at me now, I see.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. You stole my thunder, man. Andy Matichak, I want to believe everything she does on screen. She does a really good job. I really am a big fan of that actress. And you brought up Sun. I watched that one for the Civil War Challenge. Hadn't heard of it, hadn't seen it before, so you can't give me a hard time about that. And I was blown away how great she was playing a mom of a very, very troubled child, possessed by a demon or the devil or something. But bottom line is she's great. And so when she's acting on screen and she's acting completely irrationally, it starts feeling like she's freaking crazy. And I think that's not fair to this character. You know, she's a strong character. She was in the first two movies. But because of how she was written, she was starting to come off really irrational, almost to the point where it's like, hey, you need to see somebody because you are making no sense whatsoever. Obviously, they probably all need to see somebody. I got it, right? Michael Myers in your life, you probably need that. Yeah. But I'll say this, the kind of peak of this makes no sense to me was when she was losing her mind at her grandmother about her boyfriend, you know, this freaking psycho that she set him up with to begin with, and she was rejecting at that point. But that was the point there where she made no sense to me. The reasoning that she used about, you know, what she was trying to accomplish, her grandmother was trying to do to them, it made really no sense. And the way she put up with her boyfriend shenanigans, you know, love blinding people, I got it. But she's a strong character, and she's been through a lot of crazy crap. And she got away from, you know, the other bad boyfriends. So it's not like she hasn't had boyfriends before that didn't work out. So like the love blinds thing, I don't buy that for this character. So loved her acting, but almost to the detriment of the character, because the character just really didn't make any sense, because she was convincing in whatever she was portraying, which was whatever they told her, which made no sense.
Steve.
I actually, I think I can explain this and understand where she's coming from. Again, it's 4 years later. She's working in a doctor's office. She's trying to help people heal. So that's, you know, that's part of who the personality is. And, you know, Emily, you can speak to this. Isn't there always a female who thinks they can fix somebody and make them better?
Sadly, yes.
Yes. So yes. So it's the same thing. I feel like, you know, she's trying to, you know, she has her demon. She knows they're both, you know, in the town. They're, you know, I mean, you see it plenty of times. They're called out. They're, you know, they're made the pariah because, you know, everybody blames them for all the town's problems. So I do understand where she's coming from. Does it make a lot of sense in the big picture? No, but I feel like she's a healer. She's an empath and a healer, and that's what she was trying to do here.
Can I counter that, Steve? Can I counter that one? I mean, yes, I like that. I like that idea, and I wish they would have pursued that. Although I feel like in my personal experience, it's always the guys who are trying to fix the problems, you know, and the girls are like, hey, sometimes you just got to live with the problems and deal with them and not just try to fix them all the time. Whatever. We can go all kinds of ways with that. But the bottom line is that for me, she wasn't consistently that healer, right? She was that healer with some people, but she didn't seem to take that on in her own life at all. She didn't try to do that for her grandmother. She didn't try to do that with her relationship with her grandmother or her old boyfriend, or her grandmother's relationships with others. I didn't feel like it was there. Emily, you got something?
Well, yes, because like Steve said, or maybe it was Tim, I don't remember. She didn't really know her grandmother at first. And then after like a major event happens, and I can see her, especially because that's the cop doesn't have any idea what she's going through, but Corey, in some kind of a sense, can understand what she's going through. And so I think she just kind of latched on for what the reason Steve said.
That's true. Well, and also
the cops lost a lot of people in Haddonfield. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, and I'm gonna counterpoint Ken slightly too. Sometimes when you are the person that tries to take care of other people, the one person you always forget is yourself. I know a lot of people that have done that, and then it basically mentally exhausts you to even worry about yourself. So I think we're giving that, like, I think. And this is not to say Andy Matichak could not handle that thing. I just don't think it was written properly to convey that. I think she would knock it out of the park if they gave her that dual back and forth kind of thing. Like, I think she almost needs her own like solo movie kind of because she's that good. But I guess it's perfect segue because Emily just mentioned probably the most divisive character in Halloween history here, and that's Corey Cunningham. So I don't know who wants to start with him, but and granted, this is not a slight on Rowan Campbell, because I don't think this is his fault. I think he did what they gave him. And I saw him getting a lot of flack and a lot of abuse. And just a segue, I cannot stand when people do that, when they attack an actor for a role they're playing, and like it's a personal attack on you that they played a role that you want. Like they do that with all the poor Star Wars characters, and to a really like horribly offensive and sometimes racist degree, like what they did when the Obi-Wan series. And so it's terrible when they do that. So it's like, when we're discussing this, we're talking strictly about the character, not Rowan. But anyway, so who wants to start with Corey? Ken?
Yeah, I'd love to go on this one first, because I totally feel that way. I think this kid was really good. I don't know that I've seen him in anything else. I don't know. Maybe he's an experienced actor. I'm just saying I haven't noticed him before, but I thought he was really good in this. The problem is, again, the writing. The first thing I thought, and this is ironic because you sent me an article that reflected some of this later. The first thing I thought when I saw him was the kid from Stephen King's Christine. Mm-hmm. Right? He's sort of a nerd. He's kind of a outcast. He's got issues. He's definitely got home issues, much like this guy did. And he has this thing, which is this car that he's continually trying to satisfy with what he's doing. And there's a lot of that in Corey. And in this article, that's exactly what the actor says is, hey, I thought about this. I saw this. We talked about this. And I used some of that. And I think he nailed it. If I recognized that before I ever saw the interview where he mentioned that, I think that's definitely saying something when it comes to his skill. And so, yeah, I'm very put off these days about, and maybe in the past, God forbid I was part of this, but I've become much more sensitive to, and it's not all your fault, Emily, but I've become much more sensitive to how hateful people get about this stuff. Star Wars is a great example. I was pretty put off by some of the things that happen in those movies, story-wise, but I never felt any personal hatred towards any of those characters. Even Anakin, even young Anakin, those poor dudes, I mean, they just got wrecked. Their lives and careers went off the rails because people were psychos about it. And so I hope that doesn't happen to this guy. And, people were even lashing out at Jamie Lee Curtis, which is just insane to me.
She's untouchable.
The original Scream Queen with so many credits to her title, but to her name. But bottom line, we were talking about the character, right? Not happy with Corey, not whatsoever. And Tim, you're going to come up with 300 more of these, and Brian and probably Emily, but certainly Steve too. We've talked about some of this stuff, but how does this guy he's 24 years old, he's getting bullied by band kids in high school, somehow manages to get Michael Myers' mask off his face and run off with it? He fights the guy and wins and doesn't get killed. If they wanted that to make sense because there was a reason, they didn't explain it well enough. And if there wasn't a reason, then it's crap, right? It shouldn't have been written like that. It didn't make sense. So the character is just broken. It's a very busted up character that has all kinds of interesting facets that never came together and that never really went anywhere in a sense that you could understand. My opinion. Curious what you guys think.
Just so you know, he actually, this was his 34th credit, so you ignored him in 33 other things. Including some of the ones you probably have seen. He was in Snowpiercer. He was in iZombie, The 100. He was even in a couple of Hallmark movies, Supernatural.
I didn't see those. I can name all of. I can probably name all of Emily's credits, or most of them.
Yeah, he was in a lot of things. Yeah, so in Virgin River was his most recent thing before.
Oh God, he was in that.
I've seen that.
Yeah, he played Lonergan, whoever that is. I don't know. I haven't seen that show, but yeah.
I'd like to say I haven't, but.
Yeah. So we'll go around this way. We'll go to Steve next.
Sure. We're talking about the character, not the actor, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Off limits on criticizing actors. And
perfectly fine. Again, I feel like the biggest problem is just you spend the first half hour with this character, and anything that they did in the movie, they should have set him up prior to this. Like, just introducing him in the last movie and then dedicating 1/4 of the movie length to this character you've never met, it's a tough sell. And honestly, even things like, we never found out why he was, I mean, they skip over everything. We never found out why they just said he's not even guilty or, involuntary, nothing. So it's, I mean, I get it, again, he's a sad sack. did I feel bad for him? Yes. But ultimately, it's still, as the movie progresses, it's hard to feel sorry for him after he starts making some of these decisions. Again, if he's making decisions, I mean, there's so much that's unclear about whether or not any of this is supernatural or not. But that's an end of the podcast discussion, isn't it?
Yeah. So we'll move on to Red Tim.
Red Tim. So yeah, again, the actor's brilliant. The reason why he's getting so much slack is because he was so brilliant in the role. I mean, if he was not a good actor, I don't think people would be so quick to associate him with the character, right? So I always take hatred towards actors just a sign of how well they did their job. And you see that a lot with actors that play villains and stuff, and they get called out on the street or whatever. It's because they did a darn good job playing a villain. But yeah, he was great. The Corey Cunningham character, again, like Steve said, it was, I see what they were doing, but they were trying to develop this character, send him through a story arc, and kill him off in the space of an hour and a half movie that they also have to fit Michael Myers and Laurie Strode in. It was way too much. I go back, I pick on the fact that he was getting picked on by band members at 24 years old. I can see that decision to if they were trying to just show just how much of a victim this guy was. Like, we're going to pound the point home. We're going to have this grown man be bullied by high school students. That's how far he's sunk. Okay, I can get that. But the amount of time in this movie is not enough to send him from that low to a serial killer in the space of, an hour. Doesn't make any sense. Like Steve said, it's a hard sell. It's a hard sell to get the audience to buy into that, especially for a character they've never even seen before. So I don't have a problem necessarily with the character, but the way he's introduced and how quickly his story arc is developed or undeveloped, as it may be, just didn't make any sense. And you're really, to me, it's a real slap in the face of longtime Halloween fans who know what a badass Michael Myers is, that you're going to introduce this young kid who gets beat up by marching band members. I feel like I'm disparaging marching band members.
I know,
they're
nothing
great
against marching
people.
band.
What am I? I'm not saying they're like the low food on the
It's like,
high
they're
school
great people. They
food
really
chain.
are.
But but to take this guy that you've already established is just the lowest, weakest victim of all, and have him basically defeat Michael Myers is basically what happened, right? He took his mask. That's essentially equivalent to defeating him. To me was a slap in the face. Like, I don't understand how you could do that to longtime fans. And that's of your trilogy that you've already established Michael Myers as a badass killing machine, especially at the end of Halloween Kills, where he took out an entire lynch mob, and now all of a sudden he's getting beat up by this 24-year-old. I don't understand it. But again, that's a end of the podcast discussion. So I'll stop right there.
I see Emily gearing up. It was like she was like she's ready to go. So and she's next anyway on the rotation here. So
okay, so first of all, I actually really, really enjoyed that opening with Corey, because I was expecting Michael Myers to pop out and kill Corey right away, and that didn't happen. So I like that. Whenever you kill a kid in a movie, I'm like, oh my God, that is a bold move. And so I really enjoyed the opening. I liked Corey's character right off the bat from that. And I felt really bad for him when the band kids were making fun of him and all of that. I felt like this was very much Khaleesi in Game of Thrones, where you can see where she would be at the end in like an evil person because she's had 200 years or whatever of like people in her family, whatever. But just I think how people in Game of Thrones got really mad that in an episode she changed and then was like, kill the whole town. I feel like that was very similar to this, where I don't remember who said it, but someone said they should have introduced Corey even as like a minor character in the first one, like the first reboot of Halloween. I think they should have done that. Oh gosh, Tim, you said something that really had me going there for a minute, and I can't remember what it was.
It was right at the end. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's funny that a mob couldn't take him out, but like a refrigerator could at the end of this movie. That did make me giggle. But I think Corey was so messed up that he like stood up to Michael Myers. I think everyone's just been like scared of him and trying to kill him. And because that old homeless or unhoused man right by the tunnel, he was like never killed by Michael Myers. And he probably lived there forever, and who knows how long Michael Myers lived there, because he wasn't like a threat to Michael Myers, or do you know what I mean? And so I think that when Corey went in there and saw him and realized like, oh, you and I are very much alike, that maybe taking the mask, I agree, but I just feel like maybe he wasn't killed or anything, because there was like a what's the word I'm looking for? You know,
like a synergy.
Thank you, a synergy there.
Yeah, see, I think it's so funny. I think everyone's like has like amazing points with this, and I think one of the things, like, I think like I agree with Emily too. I loved his opening of it. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And here's where I went off on a path here, when it's like, when we see him again, I would have expected him, especially when you find out that he's been like this town pariah, like I would expect him to kind of already be in the Corey we saw towards the end of the movie, like this, like more of a tough guy, more of a like a get the hell out of my face. I don't want to, I can't talk to I can't trust anybody. No one believes me. I don't want to. Already that kind of a loner, and he was like this half loner, half like, and then the mother's like the mother like slaps him, and then it feels bad and kisses him, and like he's got all these mixed emotions. But I figured he should have already been to that like deranged place already. Like I think something like that would have happened, where he knows it wasn't his fault. He should have been a little bit more, I think, angry when we saw him. I think because that way at least you could have justified the quick timeline of his character. But then if you start him off as like this, like you see him 4 years later and he's still kind of this like good guy that's kind of getting picked on kind of thing, like there's not enough time to develop him into what he became. And I think that's the biggest gripe I have with him. And again, his character, not him as an actor, because I think he did great every iteration of his character that he had to be in. But I think that's what I think, and that's why, yeah, like I think Cohn said it, like he should have been established in the other movie. And it'll go to my point, which I keep kind of teasing later about this comparison I want to make. But I think, yeah, I think everything would have been more believable. Like if he was already this like angry, crazed guy, by the time he had to take Michael Myers' mask off, it might have been more believable, because he'd been like, this is the last straw now. I'm already angry. I'm angry. And now I'm going to do that kind of thing. I don't know. But
I mean, there still would have been a romance there if he was so angry.
See,
I think you could have pulled that off.
I think
they Corey and Michael.
No, yeah.
I mean,
I think they could have, because I think that would have made actually everything a little bit more cohesive. I think if they would have done that, because she then would have kind of went after. She obviously had a kind of a history of a little bit of a bad boy, so it would have made more sense, I think, for her to still fall for him. And then they could have had that whole skipped out the whole Laurie trying to fix him up thing and gone right to the I don't trust this kid. I see his eyes kind of thing. I think that would have cut out 20 minutes of the movie and made it all closer.
Yeah, like his story arc didn't need to be so extreme from like this side to that side.
They didn't, not in a movie, and I'm trying not to jump ahead to what I want about with the movie itself, but I think that would have made everything so much better. It would have tightened it up. It would have had, like it wouldn't have been so unjust of a screen time between him and Michael. It would have just, everything I think would have worked tighter. But alas, we did not get that. So actually, I almost wish I could get like all the raw footage and like re-edit it myself and try and do that and see what happens. They could just still do it anyway, like get like a cut of the movie somehow and just cut out, like skip it more and just make more angry Corey. Like maybe they need the angry Corey cut, like we'll call it, or something. But I don't know. So the next one, speaking of Corey, I guess we'll go to I'm saving obviously Laurie for last. She's the most important here, I think. We'll go to Michael himself, and I'm going to start with Red Tim on this one, because I know he's like, we got to get some of that pent up frustration before Tim starts going off and killing homeless people.
I've done really well not cussing.
I know you did pretty good, Tim. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, Michael Myers to me, again, this is David Gordon Green. This is your trilogy. You can do whatever you want to with it. So I felt like even his Michael was inconsistent throughout the movies. He starts off, this reboot starts off with Michael Myers being, I would argue, perfectly human. He's in an institution. You could tell he's older. He's aged. Obviously, he's not immortal. So that kind of set the tone in the first movie, was that this is a human. So that's the way I kind of took it from the first movie, is that this is a mortal being now. We kind of dispatched with all the supernatural stuff. Halloween Kills, he goes through some stuff that would probably kill a normal person, and we kind of get maybe he's not supernatural, but he's like really tough dude. Maybe we can buy that. And then in this one, there's parts of it that you just literally can't explain unless he's supernatural, which isn't backed up by the events of the first two movies, because you've already set the tone that he's not supernatural, or at least you've implied that. And now you're giving us a movie in which he almost has to be supernatural. But at the same time, you're also telling us he's really mortal because he's been living in a sewer pipe for 4 years and he's decrepit and he can't kill anybody, even though he killed an entire lynch mob at the end of the second movie. So what happened in this 4 years? Like, I was like, did he get COVID? What happened? That he went from a lynch mob killing
Emily's
badass
hysterical in the corner
to living in a sewer pipe as a 70-year-old man that can't even kill a homeless guy. I don't understand. Like, there was no explanation of that. And there's no explanation of why he spares Corey. There's nothing in the previous movies except for one thing. In the first Halloween, he did pass on killing a baby.
Yes.
Okay, he did pass on killing.
And the kitty babysat, that was babysat also.
Yes. So he passed on killing a couple kids. I can understand that. But I don't understand why he would not kill Corey. Other than this made up fact that he saw evil in Corey's eyes. All this came out of nowhere. None of this has ever been set up that he sees evil in people's eyes, or he spares people, or that he passes powers back and forth, or that he gets more powerful from killing people. None of this was set up. It's just thrown upon us out of nowhere. And that's the problem I had with it. The Shape should be the one character you can keep consistent through a Halloween trilogy, and they couldn't even do that. I don't get it.
Yeah. Do you think the reason why he was there so long is because he kept trying to capture little kids who lost their little like paper boat, but since he didn't speak, he couldn't bring them over to the sewer, and that's why he was stuck there?
I didn't even get it. Don't even get me started on how you live in a sewer pipe for 4 years. That's the dumbest thing. And there's an
there we go. Tim's unleashed.
There's an empty mansion that Corey kicked this kid off a balcony. The place has been boarded up. It's an empty mansion. You can easily get in because Corey and Allison broke into the place. You can easily get in there. Michael Myers doesn't go into the abandoned house and live there. He decides to live in a sewer pipe. Really?
All right, I got to call time again on this one. This is no longer the character, Tim. We got to move on.
Tim is like, I feel like Tim is like that, like, you know that those little cars used to like pull the thing out and go ring, ring, and then you finally let it go. I can't wait till we get into the movie because Tim's just gonna explode.
Oh my god, yeah. I'm going AFK for just a second, but y'all guys continue, please.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, so we'll move on to Cone. We'll go around this way. So,
same thing. I mean, again, this trilogy seemed to establish. Well, now that he's completely human, with the last movie, they kept implying so much that he was feeding off the town's fear. And that all went by the wayside. And the fact that, again, he was living for 4 years in a sewer, and he didn't kill the homeless guy who was right outside, but the homeless guy did say that periodically he would drag people in. Yeah. But there were no bodies in that sewer either. So I don't know maybe he was eating them. I don't know.
Like, he had to eat something. What else was he eating under there?
Moss.
Yeah.
Rocks.
But real quick, Ken, I'm going to go to you. I just want to jump in there. And I know you're going to hate me for this, Ken, but I'm sorry. But Cone just made an interesting point that is probably too good for this movie to have really been trying to hold across. But the fact that think about this, if the town, and there is even a line later on that could possibly defend this, but again, this is all me speculating now, and I would have never got this movie. But Cone, you know how he said, he says, "Oh, yeah, no, it is your fault." No, because if you say, like, you know, he grew on the town's fear. Well, the last 4 years they've been more obsessed with Corey and killing that kid. So now, if that is true, and you're going to hold that plot point to it, that could be what's weakening him. And maybe Michael finally coming face to face with this kid. It's like, oh, so maybe, in some weird way, like, oh, you're the one that's stealing my thunder, you little prick, or so. It's like, I don't know, but it's a good point. I just think we're giving that too much credit in the writing because there's not enough to defend that in other places, but it is an interesting thing if you want to look at it that way. But anyway, okay, so I'll go to Ken because he probably wants to slam my opinion of that. But
yes, Brian, I love you, but that's garbage. Here's why. All right, she in the intro to
you just called Cone's
thing,
garbage,
she talks
though.
about how this town is basically falling apart because of Michael Myers, the Shape, creating all this hate and discontent. People are going crazy. People are killing each other. People are clearly mentally not healthy all over the town. They show the kind of the urban decay that goes on in this tiny Haddonfield, all because of Michael Myers. So yeah, I'm 100% with Tim on this one. I feel like character is so fragmented. It's ridiculous. It's like they took everything there could be in a Michael Myers and threw it all at the wall and wanted to see what would stick with the audience. There were all these kind of implications that maybe they were bringing the whole thing back, right? That was going to be part of this. They kind of hit it in there just a little bit, maybe if you read into it, right? With the seeing the evil in the eyes and all this. It's just, I feel like it was written by committee. They couldn't decide on what they wanted to do with the character, so they tried to do everything, and it just really doesn't work out. I don't know if they were going for, let's let the fans decide for themselves, or if you're a fan of this Michael, you can have that Michael, and if you're a fan of the other Michael, you can have that one. Well, that's not how you make a character, right? That is poor writing. It's just completely lacking in decisiveness, and it creates a incoherent character. I'm with him very much on. You've got an old guy living outside of the sewer pipe saying, hey, I'm seeing people go in there that never come back out. But for some inexplicable reason, he never gets attacked. I mean, Michael loves helpless everywhere else. Like at the movie theater, right? Darcy the mail girl gets murdered. That was not what it should have been. They should have put that whole thing in there, right? They kind of screwed that up for us too. She was completely innocent, standing there making paper ghosts.
But that was Corey that killed her.
Yeah, you know what? Fair. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Not fair that I say that then. So I'll take that off the table. But, his inability to overcome Corey, if he was the human Michael, might actually make sense. I had this argument, I think, with Tim via text. And I think Tim came back and said, hey, he's ancient. I think it was a joke. But if you do the math, he's an old guy, and maybe a young guy could overcome him.
But here's the thing. If
he got bullied by band kids, right? But he can overcome Michael Myers, even an old Michael Myers.
He wasn't evil then, though.
He what now?
He wasn't evil yet, though, when he was dealing with the band kids, because then he killed the band kids.
True.
But here's the thing. Here's what I didn't understand. If we see Michael basically get his strength back by Corey delivering him a victim that he kills, but we're also told that people go in there and never come out. So he's killing people this whole time, but yet he never got his power back from killing the people that Corey didn't deliver to him.
Right. So if it's the life force of the town, doesn't make sense. If it's actual bodies, doesn't make sense. Right. I just think that they left it out there and they were like, we're going to let people decide, and they can take all this crap and build whatever they want out of it. All it really builds is frustration in me, and clearly in at least Tim. I think they screwed this character up badly. They should have just picked away and gone with it, and we would have accepted it. I think the fans would have been fine if it's like, he's supernatural. Got it. He's not supernatural. Got it. But make up your freaking minds. They might have even been able to flip in this last one and say, hey, he's supernatural after all. And we would have been, got it, if they'd have just stuck with it. But instead, they're just all over the freaking place. So, the Shape himself, from a perspective of, is he a presence? Is he threatening? In the few scenes he's in, I think he pulls it off just fine. It's great. But the sad part is we don't really see him. We see Corey, and we know that. So that kind of takes away from how you feel about actual Michael Myers. The scenes that he's really in, he's kind of pathetic, honestly. I mean, that final fight, not that we're there yet, but I felt like that was weak sauce. Emily was saying something about a refrigerator falling on the guy, right?
Yeah.
After all he's been through, that's it. A refrigerator.
Yeah. Well, why?
Anyway, I'm done complaining.
Yeah, no, but like you're right though. Like the thing is, if people would, like, some people would, who drag people in there, like, couldn't he get, like, let's go by that theory that he kills people and then he gets more strength. Couldn't, right after he killed one of these randos that went in there, he could have like kind of found his way out and just found somebody else and like killed the homeless guy. It's like, keep like, it's almost like keep finding like the little food sources and like those adventure games, okay, well, I killed this guy in the sewer. Then I walked 10 feet. I got someone else. All right. I got enough strength to get over to the convenience store and I'll wait for someone outside. He should have been able in 4 years to figure out that formula that, of like how to gain strength again, but I don't know. All right, Emily, what do you think? Sans the refrigerator, which we know.
Yes. Perhaps it was Corey who reinvigorated him and remotivated him to, get back out there. Get back out there.
Get back on that horse.
I think we had the same issue though with Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Age.
Yeah.
And so I feel like this happens a lot in like classic horror slashers that are rebooted, that it's like, oh, but if we're on the same timeline, this person would be really old, which whatever is fine. I try to stay just very positive about this movie, but I will say I was a little disappointed because I wanted more Michael Myers. Yes. And I wanted more gore. I feel like Halloween Kills, the kills were very good and very gory, and I was very pleased with all of that. And I just wanted to see more of Michael in this.
Emily wanted more gory, less Corey.
Yeah. My partner is always like, after these horror movies that I watch, she goes, okay, where is it on the Gorometer, on Emily's Gorometer? And I was like, there wasn't a lot of gore.
But that's why
my own personal thing that I just love and live for the gore.
That's why you have to see in Human Resources. You will love the gore in that. That's like,
so
that is so much gore. And then the one I saw last night in Sanitarium, the movie was just okay, but the gore in it was like off the charts. It's like wall of all blood throughout like the second half of the movie on. So, but yeah, no. And did I say that? I said, like, when we were talking about it, we're like, what if they were like, what if Emily likes it? I said, I pretty much know her pretty well now. I know that her biggest complaint is going to be, where is the gore? Didn't I say that? I said that. I said she's going to have a problem without the gore. And it wasn't that gory. And that was, I'm like so close to being able to discuss that part I'm trying to say about like the thing. But yeah, there was, yeah, I pretty much everyone, we were kind of all in agreement, I think, with the Michael. It was way too disjointed for a character that even in all the other iterations in all the different timelines, there's still been some kind of consistency. Either he's gone from just a mortal man that's really like a tough badass, or a mortal man that you find out's kind of a little bit of supernatural, but at least it kind of there's a progression. In this one, I feel like they have yet to decide. In the final film, they have yet to decide what he's supposed to be, and he's letting it ambiguous. And I'm sorry, but you know what? Like Tim keeps saying, it's your trilogy. You don't need to make it ambiguous. People, we know what we want him to be. We want to see him kill people. That's what we came to see. We don't need all this other stuff. But
what I will say though is two things. If I think, Steve, it was you who said, living off the fear, and so maybe that's why he's so weak. And so maybe it was that, I don't know, that's a stretch, sure, but Corey like reinvigorated him. But besides that, I was happy to see a throwback kill against the wall, the knife and the girl. In the wall, I was like, oh, okay, he got an old school kill in there, and I was happy to see that.
Yeah, that was good. Well, actually, speaking of that little sidetrack, did you notice the funny callback where they had Nick Castle playing this flasher guy, and he goes, "You like what you see?" And he totally did the callback to Linda's character from the first one, which was kind of funny. Yeah. Having Michael Myers essentially say that. But all right, so before the final character, I know this went on long, the character thing, but it kind of really, I mean, in a movie that's, this one is particularly character driven, it kind of makes sense. We'll go to Laurie Strode, of course, which is icon of all icons in terms of Scream Queens. And, her character, I think, somewhat, and I know I've criticized a lot of different things in there, but I think her character kind of makes the most sense out of all of it, in the progression, and the fact that I think she was one of the true characters that kind of gave the fans what they wanted in the end. They wanted to see her finally defeat Michael and get over with it. Now, granted, they didn't give you I don't think you got the battle per se. Like, I feel you got that in the first film, the better battle between Laurie and Michael. And in this one, I think you got like a much more healed Laurie versus a kind of a wheezing Michael. But but I still think I like Laurie's character all the time because I think Jamie Lee Curtis just, I don't know. Maybe I'm biased. I just don't see her. I can't see her doing much wrong, and she just, I think it's Laurie Strode is such her character that I think whichever it goes, I'm okay with it because it's her doing it. And I think she adds her own little twist to it, regardless of what's on paper. And I think, so I don't know. I know some people had a problem with the way she was in it. I didn't. I thought she was the one kind of constant in there. I think, finally when she, eventually she had to move on somehow, right? She had to move on. And I mean, for her own sake. And, I think writing the memoirs was kind of her therapy. Trying to like maybe fix her daughter up, trying to bake the pumpkin pie, going back to like, they said, like I saw an article, it made perfect sense. If you notice, she does a lot of Laurie traits from the first film. So she's coming full circle, which makes sense. I just think all the stuff around her kind of hid some of it. And I think you have to look you shouldn't have to look that hard to find those things. But I feel like you had to a little bit. But I think since I was so focused on her character, I thought she was the best out of everybody. But I guess I'll go to Ken. We'll go around this way. So
okay, I respect what you said there. I don't think that's a bad way to look at it. For me personally, what I would have liked to have seen, and every fan is going to want something different out of this movie. What I would have loved to have seen happen was kind of where she started, right? This whole, I'm going to take a different tack on this. I'm going to try to, be this blog writing, I'm going to heal myself kind of lady, and I'm going to not live in fear. But I wanted her to go absolutely, pardon my French, batshit crazy on Michael in the end. And we never really get that. She does have the fight with him and she does kill him. I got it. But it was not as just raw as I wanted to see it. I wanted that all those years, those decades of fear and hate to boil over, and for her to put a little bit of that hate out there back on Michael, maybe even overshadow, his evil with her hate and put that guy down. I'm one of those guys that doesn't have a problem with the hero dying in movies. I think it would have been nice symmetry for them to have to go together. They kind of touch on that in the movie. They kind of play with it a little bit just to mess with you, but you never really buy it. And they certainly don't go that route. One of my favorite scenes out of any book I've ever read certainly was when Sherlock Holmes goes over to the falls with Professor Moriarty. And I felt like that was such a great way. As a kid, I hated it. It's like, how did the good guy just die? But as I grew up, I really learned to appreciate that symmetry of the good and the evil almost not being able to exist without each other. And I felt like these two, of all things, one cannot survive without the other. They need each other in a storytelling sense. So I felt like they had to go. So, now I'm criticizing the end of the movie. Don't really feel bad about that. If the movie ended the way it did and everything else had been perfect, I would have been happy. So it's kind of a weak criticism. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I think she did a fantastic job. I think her character was a little inconsistent because there was this like, oh, I'm all, retreated in myself, but I am out there blogging about it. And, I'm not living in fear, but I'm instantly ready to fight Michael Myers when he's back. And I have no fear, and I'm going to let my daughter or granddaughter go out and date this rando. But should she really be? I mean, after all the things that happened, I feel like she would be, really struggling to go, sure, here, let me set you up with this kid that I barely know. And that is, by the way, considered a killer by the entire town. It doesn't really make sense to me. So from a story writing perspective, I didn't love it, but if that had been my only complaint, I would have been able to get over it. And she does a fantastic job. So like you said, I want to like her and everything she does. I could have lived with it.
Yeah, one quick thing, and then we'll go on to Cone. I think there was just one constant theme actually that did continue, and it's very few to find one that did continue through the three. But if you think about it, this trilogy was extremely one-sided in terms of the Michael Laurie, because they went into to explain it multiple times in the first one and in the second one that it was Michael never cared about Laurie. She was just someone else to him. It was all her. It was all on her. She was thinking that spent her whole life waiting for him to come back for her. The only reason he came there was because the doctor led her there. And she found that out in Halloween Kills. So she wants to kill him because, what he did to her family. But if you think about it, Michael could care less. He could have all those 4 years, if he was driven to go after her, he would have found a way to still go after her. I think it was very one-sided. So I think the ball was always in her court onto how to do that. And I think finally she, when she realized that, like, like Corey was almost like, okay, the new Michael, you want to say like that. She had to go after him. And then when Michael really came back, she's like, all right, shoot, he's still here. I got to finish him. I got to kill him. We got to kill him for the town. Everyone's got to move on, kind of thing. She took it all on herself. So I think it was always one-sided in this trilogy anyway. So I think that could have also, as well as that was such a good plot point, it also may have been kind of like, may have been why that final battle wasn't so as severe as it was, because it is kind of a little bit one-sided. Like, she had 40 years of rage and Michael only has the last 4 years, essentially, if you think about it, because he probably he forgot about her in that time. He was whatever that sanitarium he was with the doctor. I don't know. I just think it was like the audience saw it as the battle between Laurie and Michael, because you're also probably in your head incorporating all the other films and everything and the whole thing. But really, it's like they tried to go out of their way to tell you multiple times that Laurie was the one that had the problem with him. He was not seeking her out. So I don't know. But anyway, let's that could just be again, I could be making up plot hole points, but we'll go to Steve.
Okay. So to your point, I feel like, again, because we never get inside Michael's head, we never know what's going on. He could be looking at Laurie as the one person he didn't get to kill, and again, maybe he wants to finish the job. I mean, again, there's no family connection, depending on the movie. But I feel like, I mean, I again love the actress, but I feel like the character is a little inconsistent when you go from the last one where she's got, a house full with weapons and booby traps and everything, and she knows he's still out there in this one, and all she has is a handgun and a safe. I mean, again, she's worked on, she's gotten sober. She's taken over the house. But I'd like to point out also, there's a few scenes where you do see her drinking alcohol in this one.
Yeah, she does.
But it's exactly. Cheers. But it's tough because, again, it comes down to the writing. It's hard because you're saying she's trying to heal, but at the same time, everybody knows Michael escaped in the last one. It was never any, we put him in the ground and, he just comes back from the dead. So it's inconsistent, but that's not on her. That's on the writers.
All right, we'll go to Emily first before we go to Red Tim, because I know, because then right after this we can start going into the movies, and I have Tim's going to head that way anyway. So we'll go to Emily first.
Sure. So I hear what you all are saying. What I kind of take solace in was that she was executive producer on this. She knows Laurie Strode better than anyone else. She has played this character for so long. If this is how she wanted this whole thing for her and her character to end, and I'm like, okay, great. Then I'm going to buy this. I'm going to back her on it. She's moved on, right? How many times have we said to our friends or someone that we're close to, you need to just move on. I get that this is a big thing and I've been with you all the way up to here, but now it's on you. It's on you to move on. It's on you to get past this. I understand, yikes, it's Michael Myers. Could anyone really get past Michael Myers? Probably not. That's a very huge thing. I get that. But as someone said, she set Corey up with her granddaughter, but Corey, again, wasn't evil at that point. She probably wouldn't have set her granddaughter up with Corey if she had known that. And then I think, Ken, it was you who said that you would have been okay seeing her die. But I would have been pissed off if Sydney in Scream died. I don't think you can kill these characters off. I think Sally died in Texas Chainsaw Massacre because we had her in the very first one and never again. And they tried to bring her back like a Laurie Strode. And then she died. We're like, well, there wasn't really any story there, so okay, I guess she can die. But I also don't mind when the lead characters die. I think I don't mind an unhappy ending, but I think if you would have killed her off in this, it would have been enraging more than Tim is already enraged.
We would have had Red Emily.
Yeah, I think it was a nice ending for her. I thought that her character made sense. She's trying to move on. She's trying to get past all this stuff. It's been 4 years. Michael hasn't been around. And, she's still a badass. She still fought him off. She still did all the things that she had to do. I liked her character. I was happy with her.
Brian, may I for a moment here? I just want to point out for the group that this is one of my proudest moments. I brought her full circle. She's enraged by what I said,
Yeah,
not me being the rageful one. This is perfect. I win today.
It went back. Yeah, we look at that. It was like a whole.
Emily, the reason I felt that way was because I felt like they were very much of a yin and yang. Whereas I feel like you talked about Sydney and Scream. I didn't feel like she and the killers were a yin and yang thing. She was a victim. They were after her, and they didn't really have a good reason aside from, oh, she survived when they meant to get her, so they're going to keep on after her. I felt like she and Michael always had some sort of connection, which again, we don't get any satisfaction on that in this movie, but I always felt like there was something there. And I know in the past they try to explain it as like a brother-sister thing or whatever, but it felt like there was something there. And I was trying to save this for the end segment, but when writers tell the audience over and over again that they're wrong, the writers are wrong. Right? When you have this many fans who are saying there's something there, right? And they go, no, there's nothing there. Michael doesn't care about her. They're wrong, right? They are not getting their own character. When the entire world sees that that's how it should be, in my opinion, that's just poor writing. But, it's a free country. They can do that if they want.
All right. Here goes Tim. Get ready. Everyone buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up. So
need more wine.
Well, I'll start off kinder and gentler. So I never really understood the fan kind of this unconscious desire to have Laurie die, because she's often seen as the original, quote unquote, original final girl. I don't know that she's the original final girl, but she's kind of popularly seen as that. So to me, I was delighted that she lived, because she's the ultimate final girl. She deserves to live and basically win against Michael Myers. And I totally get what Ken's saying about the yin yang thing. That's explored in the Batman comics a lot. Batman and Joker. Batman can't exist without Joker. Joker can't exist without Batman. I totally get that, and I can see where you could take that for this franchise. But for me, I kind of like the final girl angle, that she's the final girl and she will always be the final girl. She's always the one that survives. So I love that part of it. As far as her character, Brian, you brought up a good point that I didn't think about, because one of my big issues with her character in this one was the fact that she spent 30 years building her house into a fortress to protect herself from a guy that was in an institution locked up. And then once that guy kills her daughter and escapes, she's all of a sudden, oh, well, let's just go back to normal. And I didn't understand that until you said what you said about her realizing that he was never after her. He was, she just happened to be a victim. And I could buy that if the writers had put that in there and they had said something like, well, I'm writing my memoirs. Now that I realize Michael was never after me, it is time to move on with my life. I mean, all they needed was one line to explain that.
They had something like it, but it wasn't done enough well.
It wasn't, obviously it wasn't done well, because I missed it.
It was like she said something like, "Oh, I got rid of my boogeyman," kind of thing. But I took it as a literal, because she just killed him. When I think they probably could have had that line like in the beginning part when she was typing the memoirs, it would have made better sense.
But to Ken's point too, this trilogy was not made in a vacuum. These directors have seen these movies. These writers have seen these movies. They know what the fans expect. And the reason it makes me a little irritated, a lot irritated.
I was going to say a little.
A lot irritated is because there's articles out there that talk about how the director said this movie was going to piss fans off. If you're writing a movie to piss fans off, why are you making the damn movie, is what I want to know. Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense to me. And there's other articles talking about how they were in the writer's room and it was like, choose your own adventure. And we just toss out ideas and what sounds good, we just do. That's not how you do a trilogy. I don't understand the mindset around that, because again, this trilogy this is not an original story. It was not made in a vacuum. You know these characters, you know what fans are going to expect. Why would you openly go against that to make a movie that everybody's going to hate? It doesn't make any sense to me. I would never record a podcast episode that was going, hey, Brian, people are going to be really pissed off at this episode. I can't wait to release it. Who does that?
Yeah. That's how we started, but then we realized that was not there.
So my question to you though, I get that a lot, but the one thing I go back to is Jamie Lee Curtis signed off on it. Like, she was an executive producer. Why do you think she did that?
Well,
like, that's the one thing that I keep going back to is like, that does suck if it's like, oh, well, people are gonna hate this movie. I agree. It's like, well, then why are you gonna do that? That's shitty.
I mean, I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis signed off on it knowing that people are going to hate it. But Jamie Lee Curtis also never watches horror movies, and she hasn't even, I don't think she's ever even seen most of the Halloween sequels. So she's looking at it from a different perspective, I think. And I can understand she wants to give this a proper send off. And yeah, I mean, to me, she's not this is going to sound blasphemous. She's not a Halloween fan in terms of she doesn't have the history with the franchise, like from a fan perspective.
Okay.
Tim, I'm loving you so much right now. You have no idea.
Not dissing her. Not dissing her, but she is not a horror movie fan. She's not seen all the sequels. She doesn't watch this whole thing play out over 30 some years. So I don't know. I mean, that's great. Like Ken said, I would take the beginning. Well, we'll get into that. I'll save it for later. But I didn't have as big a problem with the ending as a lot of people did. Yeah, it definitely could have been bigger. It could have been better. I do feel like the climax in the first film was better than this one, but I didn't really have, while I was watching it, my problems with the whole Corey plotline was so far outweighed the ending that I think by the time I got to the ending, I was actually relieved that we were actually seeing Michael Myers and Laurie on the screen together. So I was like, oh, this is great. Even though when I look back on it, I'm going, man, it could have been better. But yeah, I'll go along with Brian. I don't have as big a problem with Laurie as I do the inconsistencies with Laurie as much as I do the other characters. So I'll leave it at that. Because again, in my eyes, Jamie Lee Curtis can do no wrong. So I know. Criticizing her.
We're
I don't like criticizing her.
Jamie Curtis.
All right, so we'll get into the meat of the movie now. I mean, again, I know we spent a long time in the characters, but this was a character-driven movie. That was what it decided to be. It definitely was not a traditional slasher in a lot of ways. And I think, and we kind of touched on this already. The first thing I had on there was the opening sequence, and I'm glad Emily brought that up because I have to say, I saw someone post this right before I saw it because I guess they saw the trailer. They said, "Wow," because that is the most unusual opening to a Halloween film yet. And so when I went in, I started seeing it. I expected something different. So but I did not expect what happened. Like I did not expect that shocker of a thing. I'm like, what? And I thought the opening sequence was possibly one of the best parts because it, like, next thing you know, right when you're like, what the, it's like do, and then the credits hit and you're like, whoa, what movie am I getting? Like, what's going on here? And so and I'm sitting there as the credits are going, I'm like, well, why did they show this? How is this going to play out to it? How is this going to play into it? And I was hoping it would play. I didn't even know how I hope at that point. I'm trying to think back how I think I would have hoped it would have played, but I think I would have expected, like, I obviously knew this Corey character was going to be something, but I think maybe if I think back, I thought maybe he's going to be in jail and he's going to break out and they're going to think he's killing people and, instead of Michael Myers when it really is Michael Myers. They were going to do almost like a reverse switch the way they had it. Like they convinced Michael was gone and they're thinking it's this, it's this, maybe it's this kid the whole time or something. Actually, I guess that's not a true reverse, but like, I thought like maybe they knew it was this kid the whole time, but also Michael is out there killing people kind of a thing, like this dual thing. I didn't expect them to kind of make Corey such a focus on it. Like I thought he was going to be kind of like a alongside character, but what did everyone else think of the opening? I guess whoever wants to go first on this one.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'm with you guys on this one. I agree that it was a good segment, but I kind of way to turn this one negative, I guess. But I feel like when I see something like that at the beginning of a movie and it doesn't quite fit, it's like this is not the standard sort of he's going to come kill the babysitter opening, and that's okay. But then you as the director owe me an explanation for why that is later. Somewhere in the movie, this has to make sense, right? And what we got was the character Corey. So, which clearly we were not all very happy with. So even though it was a great sequence, in retrospect, it's like, great, this is kind of the beginning of the end of this movie, where it's like, well, it was great, but then we had this character that took over for Michael that we didn't want there. So well done, right? And like Emily said, I always applaud. I don't want to say applaud. That sounds really messed up, but I respect a movie that'll go there when it comes to, wow, we just tossed a kid down like 3 flights of, three stories, and he splats at the bottom in front of his parents. That's shocking. And I can respect that, because it's kind of one of those horror, I don't know, lines that many people don't want to cross. So I had high hopes. I didn't know where it was going, but I don't think that I needed to know. I think that was up to them to explain to us, and the explanation in the end was unfortunately not what I wanted to be.
Did you guys notice something too about this opening real quick? I'm sorry, I don't mean to when I get around everyone, but like I felt like it was very weird, almost like everyone was breaking the fourth wall a little bit. Like it looked like they were talking right at the camera a couple times. There's one shot, it was like a close up of Corey's head, and he's talking to you, almost like to you, the audience, like, oh, at Halloween, we're gonna have a great time or something like that. And I'm like, is that? And then there's one scene where like I guess him and the mother are talking, and it's like the mirror, the reflection of them, but it's like focused on them, so it almost looks like they're looking at you. And I was like, very weird, like shots that never were repeated in the rest of the movie. Like it was only in that opening sequence, and I wonder if they did that to make it even more jarring and more separate. But I don't know if anyone else noticed that. I just thought it was odd how a couple of, like if you go, but I know I don't mean for you guys to have to suffer through it again that don't want to see it, but just at least watch that first scene again. Look at how so many times there's like where it looks like almost like Corey's looking right at you, at the audience, almost kind of a thing, and it's very. Like, and I caught it right away. I'm like, it's almost like he's breaking the fourth wall, like trying to like wink, wink, nod, nod, tell us something here. And I don't know if like that was intentional or just weird cinematography. I don't know. But well, let's go to Emily for since I know she already brought this sequence up to start. So
yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was a great opening. I liked how the Halloween ends was in blue, like in the third Halloween season of the witch or whatever it was. I liked how they did that little throwback. I thought that was really cool. I really enjoyed the opening, and man, that song gets me every time. The theme song every time. Like, oh yes, every single time. I love it. So I liked it. I liked the opening. I liked the old, she with Laurie Strode was a babysitter, then Corey was a babysitter. I like that kind of a thing. I really enjoyed the opening a lot.
All right, let's go to Cone before we let Tim go on his rampage.
Okay, well, I have to go one step back even further to when they start the opening credits and they're playing the most unusual Halloween song, like it's not like Monster Mash, but it was just this weird, like upbeat Halloween song. And immediately, I started going, where is this going? But yeah,
did I put the wrong movie on Peacock? What happened here?
Yeah, did I change the audio? Is it the wrong continent? Yeah. But it's again, it's a great setup. Wrong continent, wrong language. Yeah. But it's a great setup. But honestly, I mean, what I love, I mean, again, I watched it first on Peacock, and then I saw it in the theater, and having that body fall and just seeing the head twist as it lands, the whole audience was just, when you see it with an audience, it's such a different reaction than at home. And that, but then also I want to, as it leads into also the opening credits, there was the whole, I guess it was going for symbolism, where each pumpkin is basically begetting another pumpkin. Like it's saying it's, either it's passed on, or it's, or it's going to continue, or pumpkins are just having pumpkins now. I don't, the logic isn't quite there, but no, it's very effective. It just, honestly, it went on. Like, I mean, if you look at the opening for Scream, it's maybe 10 minutes at most, but like I said, this is almost a half hour in, it's a longer sequence by far.
All right, Tim's low.
I'm actually not going to rant on this one. I love the opening. Okay. I absolutely love the opening.
We'll ease into Tim's rant.
Yeah. No. I love the opening. I thought it was really cool. I thought, again, I didn't know where it was going. If I'd known where it was going, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. But I thought it harkened back to the original premise of Halloween 3, which is to create a new Halloween movie. Every sequel would be not Michael Myers; it'd just be a different Halloween set horror film. I thought that's what they were kind of going for there. So I thought that was super cool. Even again, like you, Brian, I was thinking, okay, maybe this is just like kind of establishing the effects that Michael Myers has had on the town, and then we're going to see Michael come back, and he's going to have all these crazy kills, and that never panned out. I mean, I remember I was 50 minutes into this movie and I had not seen Michael Myers yet, and I was going, what am I watching? Like, I almost turned it off. I literally almost got up and turned it off because I was like, how am I at the 50 minute mark and I haven't seen Michael Myers yet? I don't understand this. So that aside, I thought the opening sequence was pretty brilliant. It was, to me, was the best part of the whole movie. But unfortunately it just never panned out to.
That makes it even more tragic because there's like a Tim all settled in, enjoying the opening sequencing, all excited for his
I was, when those credits rolled at the beginning after that sequence, I was stoked. I was excited. I thought this was going to be freaking awesome. And then just to have that letdown, that kind of probably fueled a lot of my anger, was how hyped up I was to what would happen later. But we'll get to that.
Okay, well, the next thing I'm going to skip the second thing I had because we kind of touch on it through everything else. So are you ready for this one? This is going to just open up everything for Tim. The plot points in the movie. How does everyone feel about the different plot points? I'm cracking myself up. Okay, this is good. Who wants to?
I probably don't need to start this one.
Let's let Cone start. I don't think Cone started yet.
Again, the plot point, I mean, for me, it's the overarching plot is just, are they going supernatural? Is Corey supposed to displace the shape Michael Myers? I don't know what they were going for, but what's interesting is, and we didn't even touch on this yet, is the whole radio station is like a Greek chorus that's giving commentary on all the Halloween movies. And apparently they play so little music, but they talk about, all the bodies.
Yeah, it's like the Warriors. That like
it did make me think of the Warriors, but that's the biggest thing is I really wish, again, they had a lot of ideas, but I don't think they knew what they wanted to do. And that's the biggest problem, because there were so many different paths they could have gone. And again, was it going to be transference of power? I didn't expect a tag team with, Corey and Michael, but
as they actually did tag team each other, like in WWE or something. They're like, wait a minute. Oh, wait. Like Michael holds him and then he tags Corey and pulls him in.
I'm picturing the Bushwhackers right now.
Oh my God. I don't know. Michael seemed too weak. I don't know if he could do that whole like stomp thing, but
I can't describe how mad I was when Michael
Tim just like, that's it. I'm jumping in. Tim's tagging.
I can't describe how mad I was when they were like, Corey was his intern and they were out doing murder partnerships together. I was infuriated, seething mad. Like, why in the world would Michael ever take on an intern to do murders with? I don't.
An unpaid intern too.
He needed the college credit.
Protege.
Yeah, protege. There you go. Yeah, see, that's why we need Emily here. She keeps us grounded.
It goes against everything Michael Myers was through 13 movies. It goes against everything. Why would you do that? I don't understand it. But I digress. Continue.
But who's go? Oh, Cone. You're done, right?
Again, it's the just, I don't know what they wanted to do. They didn't know what they wanted to do. There was a lot of potential, but it was squandered. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. So what? We'll cross over. We'll go to Emily because we should probably finish with Ken and Tim, because I think that'll be just funny.
Yeah, I feel like they should have pulled a Harry Potter and done part 1, part 2. Part 1,
oh yeah, actually, that's an interesting.
And at the end of part 1, he's then changed. And then part 2, then you can. I feel like it was maybe a little too rushed of a movie to put all of that in there. So I would have liked to have seen a part 1, part 2, and then you could have fleshed it out a little bit more. I mean, again, I don't mean to be like everything is sunshine and roses and stuff, but I just have to think, like, if Jamie Lee Curtis is happy, then I'm happy. Was there things wrong with it? Yes, there's a lot, as we've all pointed out, but like, I thought the acting was good. I wanted more kills and more gore. That wasn't what I wanted, but
that's actually a great and interesting point, because it kind of goes along with it in a different way than what I was going to say too. But with the part 1, part 2 thing, because I was saying, like, it almost as if this should have been the second movie, and Halloween Kills should have been the last one, but like obviously change the ending to make it more final. But like that like maybe that's the battle they should have had, like the whole town going after Michael, then finally like Laurie coming out and going after him, like a back-to-back, like type of thing. And if you want to have Corey in it all, let him be in the middle segment almost. Let him be like, or at least part of him in that one and part of him in the second one. I think that's the whole kind of like, it's like they took the second one, and it's like a lot of people, the same criticism they have for the Star Wars things, where they say like, okay, they had Last Jedi and then Rise of Skywalker spent a bunch of time introducing new stuff while trying to undo the last one and changing it. And that's what I know the biggest criticism was. Now, I'm the biggest Star Wars apologist there is, because I love it and I will overlook as many flaws as I can possibly overlook. But with this one, I think I'm definitely a little bit more like critical with it. And I think a lot of the plot points that they had in this one, if they could have maybe spread it out amongst the other three films a little bit, maybe and tweaked it here and there, so it might have worked a little better. But I think you can't, you can't bring up all these new plot directions in a film that's supposed to tie up a trilogy.
Yeah.
Like people come to, at this point, people expected the resolution. They didn't want a whole new character and a whole new person to get confused with, you know?
Yeah.
You don't want some you're expecting Michael Myers to go around. That's some like emo kid gets like beat up by band geeks and then gets revenge and like it's too much for that ending movie. You didn't need to have so much in it.
I will, like, again, I can with the things about, oh, she wouldn't be dating this guy, or oh, Laurie would have been doing this or whatever, that I can all, I can make sense of that. But the one thing that I can't really make sense of is, yes, how in the last one, Halloween Kills, a mob couldn't take him down. But in this one, and maybe it was because he was older, maybe it was because, I don't.
Tim's right. He might have had COVID. We don't know what happened.
COVID. But I remember I giggled when I just felt like maybe that wasn't as powerful as I wanted it to be. That really didn't make much sense, that the town couldn't take him out, but then, like I said, the refrigerator really just put it into it.
All right, we'll finish this up with Ken, and then we'll go to Red Tim.
You sure you're ready for this? All right, here we go. I agree with what Emily was saying there. The refrigerator thing is particularly hard for me, but here's the thing. And now, Emily, you may disagree with some of these things because you're in the industry and you have a different perspective from us outsiders who don't act in movies and don't know a lot of directors, or in my case, any. That's not true. My cousin was a director once, Tim. You remember that?
And Emily's a future director, which we were still waiting for her to direct that movie. She was talked about a couple of years ago, which we still give you the pep talks on. Don't forget.
I would love to see it. I would love to see it. But here's my thought. If you are a director and you're directing a movie, that's your movie. You can do with it what you want, unless you are directing the final installment in a sacred, horror anthology, or not anthology, I'm sorry, a sacred horror series like this one. You can't do that. You can't just go off and say, I'm going to do with this what I want. I think that's arrogant. I think it's self-centered, and I think it's ridiculous to think that the fans are going to be okay with that. And if you don't care about what the fans think, you're the wrong stinking person to make the final movie in the Halloween series entitled Halloween Ends. That's not cool. It's not okay. It kind of comes back to what Tim was saying about, the director having said things like, hey, don't tell anybody what happened in this movie. This trailer is purposefully somewhat misleading. It looks like it's just a giant fight between Laurie and Michael. That's what people want to see. This movie's going to piss a lot of people off. He knew what he did there. And, maybe it was too late to fix it, and he would have if he could have. But the bottom line is, you just can't do that. And that's why, if it was purposefully or not, we're in this position where this director now has made a movie that people are going to hold over his head and say, dude, you had the chance to end this in a way that made everybody happy, and you didn't. You went way off base, not just a little bit. People were always going to complain. Let's face it, right? I wouldn't have minded seeing them die together. Tim would have hated. No, I'm sorry. Emily would have been enraged, right? And if she
would have blamed you,
somebody else would have said, no, that's
manifesting
not
it.
Yeah, there it is. That's right. So God forbid it would have broken a friendship here. But at the end of the day, that's okay, right? You can disagree on what the perfect ending is. But I think the one thing that we have a problem with now is that everybody just about agrees that this is not the way it should have gone. There are, looking on Twitter, there are plenty of people like, oh, I love this movie. And I feel sort of like these folks are just trying to be contrarians, because I don't see how a true fan that's seen all these movies built up Michael Myers as a character in their head could go to this and say, this is how I wanted it to end. You know, with the understudy, with the freaking intern, with Michael Myers barely having any screen time, and with a refrigerator being the final lethal takedown to Michael Myers, who crawled out of a damn well after he got run over by a car in one movie, you know, who came out of a burning house in this trilogy, like some sort of supernatural tank of a man. If he was supernatural or not, there needed to be more. And I just feel like the 4 years of him being older should not be able to explain that away. So I feel like this guy had a responsibility as director. He did not execute it well. And so I'm a little bit pissed off. I feel like as a fan, I was owed something that was better than that. And I hate to say it that way. I don't want to sound entitled. But, you know, when it comes to something as sacred as Friday the 13th, Halloween, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know, name your favorite franchise. There has to be some respect for what the fans expect in that. And if you're not willing to do that, that's fine. You know, good for you and your creative license. Then go somewhere else, though, and don't piss off the entire fan base. So I'm trying to say this in a kind way. I hope it didn't come off as too harsh. But that's sort of what I feel like this guy went. He said he tried something different. A lot of people are like, well, you know, props for trying something different. No props for trying something different. Not here. Not this movie. If this was not the final movie, fine. If this was the previous movie, fine. Try something different. I'm totally cool with it. And if it doesn't pan out, oh well, we'll complain about it at the round table, right? And life goes on. But this is supposed to be it, right? This is definitely, from what we understand, going to be it for Jamie Lee Curtis. And this is how it ends for the fans. I just feel like it's kind of a slap. Tim said a slap in the face. I think it's a very good way to put it. I'm not sure. Slap in the face sounds very offensive. I'm not sure he meant it that way. And I'm not trying to say that this director was purposefully being a jerk, but it didn't work out. I don't think this is the way it should have gone. That's what I got.
Ken, by the way, you're a Pats fan, so we know you're entitled. So come on. No, I'm just kidding.
I think they're losing right now. I haven't looked at the score in a while, but it wasn't looking good.
Yeah, I'm a Jets fan, so of course I had to get that dig in there. But yeah,
they're doing well this year. Good for you.
Yeah, except now we lost Breece Hall, but and so we lost half our team. But anyway, that'll just enrage Tim even more because we're talking about football. But anyway, so all right, Tim, here. I think this is the part everyone's been waiting for this podcast.
Well, you guys are lucky because the kids are in bed and my throat's shot, so I don't get to scream like I really.
I think the best is Emily's reactions to everybody before they go. Her like it's cracking me up. She's like, "Okay, Tim."
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm totally with Ken on this. I don't mind directors doing something different. This was not the time to do it. One thing that bothers me is I've read a lot of articles, interviews with David Gordon Green, where he basically said this movie was going to piss people off. And like I already mentioned that. Why would you make a movie to intentionally piss the audience off unless you're just being an asshole? I don't know. There's other articles. There was an interview with Rowan Campbell about his character where they were talking about like even the crew was confused as to what kind of movie they were making. And I just question why when you've got these articles coming out where even the people working on the movie didn't understand what you were going for. There's another article I read where David Gordon Green was talking about how they would just have writers in the room just tossing out ideas and whatever sounded cool, they would do it. Again, that's not how you construct a trilogy. That's not how you conclude a trilogy. I don't understand where that thought process goes to, that you're just going to throw out 30 years of history with this movie franchise and just try something new. It doesn't make any sense. This movie, like I said, I mean, you could probably bang this movie out and satisfy all the Halloween fans just by having Michael show up, do some extreme kills, like over the top, over Halloween kills. Like he just goes total badass, goes nuts on this town, and then have this climatic fight between him and Laurie. Every Halloween fan in the world would have been satisfied. They would have all been. Was it something new? No. Was it something we've seen before? Yes. Not a single fan would have cared. They would have absolutely loved it. And that's all you had to do. And instead, I don't understand why I'm not going to get into his mindset of why he did it that way or why the writers went that way. And I understand they're artists. They want to do something unique. They want to express their creativity, whatever. But there's, I read an article about Hollywood sometimes intentionally, seemingly pissing off their audience for some reason. I don't understand the whole concept behind it, but basically going out of their way to upset their fan base. And I don't understand it. These are the people buying the tickets. These are the people, making the money for these movies. Why you would go out of your way, unless you take that money for granted. And maybe they did with this movie. This movie was number one. It made a killing. I think it was the weakest of the trilogy in terms of box office dollars. I don't know how much that has to do with the streaming stuff, but I think especially in the horror genre, a lot of times that money is taken for granted up front because they know people are going to show up and watch a Halloween movie regardless of how good or bad it is. And so that upset me. But like I said, I other than the opening sequence and somewhat the end sequence that I can forgive a little bit, I hated everything about this movie. I hated the direction they went with it. I hated that they didn't show more kills. I hated that Michael Myers was turned into this inconsistent, I don't know what he was in this movie. They had one job and they blew it to me. So disappointment can't begin to express how much I hated this movie, and I'm really fighting not to cuss. So and I'm going to continue my endeavor not to cuss on this podcast, so and keep this family friendly. But I was saying a few choice words after this movie ended. I was not happy, and it's been a couple weeks now, so I've had time to like cool off and read other opinions, and that's helped a lot. But it's not one that I'm going to go revisit. I don't have any desire to watch this movie again.
Wow. That's rough. Well, okay, so I because I know it's been going long, and I know poor Emily has not eaten dinner yet. So, but we'll just kind of move on. I guess we'll go to because I had a couple little things here, but it kind of all blends in anyway. So let's kind of go to I guess right to likes and dislikes. Like the thing you like the most and the thing you like the least. So let's start with Emily first on that one.
Okay. Favorite thing was the opening. I loved the soundtrack actually to this movie. I thought the soundtrack was really great. Thought the opening was great. Love the soundtrack. I really was disappointed in the lack of kills. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I also really liked that they brought back the wife from Halloween Kills whose husband died.
Oh yeah, that was kind of cool. Yeah.
I actually really liked that too. I thought that was that tugged at my heartstrings. Like, oh, she lived, because I thought she died.
Yeah. And she was in the first one, the 2018 one. She was the caretaker at the cemetery. That's the same character. Yeah, she made it through all three films.
Oh my gosh, good for her. I did not realize that. It's been a while since I saw that 2018 Halloween one. So I like that as well. I just wanted more gore. I wanted more kills. I wanted more Michael Myers.
Yeah, mine's almost identical to that. It's quite. I love it. My favorite part was probably the opening sequence, and my least was that there was just not enough Michael that we loved, that we wanted to see, and it wasn't there. And it just, even when he appeared, it wasn't enough. It was not the Michael that I expected, which is it doesn't have to, I don't have to have a movie, be cookie cutter to my exact expectations, but it wasn't even close to what I wanted from Michael. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you. All right, Ken.
Sorry, I was struggling with the mute button there. Yeah, that's tough, man. There were so many things I disliked about the movie. It's tough to put my finger on one thing. I think overall, I go back to what I just said. It's kind of the disrespect for the fan base in my mind. And I don't know if it was intentional or not, so I'm not saying anything about anybody as a person. But I think this, in the end, disrespected what the fan base expected. I was looking forward to the most epic battle between The Shape and Laurie that there ever was, and then whatever ending came from that. We disagree on what the perfect ending would be. That's totally fine. But like Tim said, if we'd have had amazing kills, great gore, and just one hell of a final fight, everybody in the end would have been okay. We would have been fine with that. So my favorite, I think, easily would be the opening sequence. I think that is by itself in a vacuum my favorite. If you go beyond trying to interpret that, it's no longer my favorite, but I like what they did there. I like that very much. So I'm not sure if that expressed my least favorite very well, because there were so many things that bothered me, but I think that's my answer as I work. Scotch is starting to set in.
Yep. All right, Mr. Steve Cohn.
Same thing. I got to go. The opening again, it sets the tone with the tension, and it felt more in line with the original movies. But honestly, my biggest gripe is just the fact that it's called Halloween Ends, and yes, the final battle takes place on Halloween, but there's no fear of, like, the trick-or-treaters are at stake, or babysitters or anything else. There's no Halloween. I mean, yes, there was a costume party at a bar 2 days before or whatever it was, but it wasn't Halloween.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. It took place before. Well, I mean, again, not gonna make excuses for that. That could have. I bet you that was in their heads intentional. So we're like, see, we're being different.
Just to spite you all.
Yeah, I know. All right, all right. You ready, Tim?
Yeah, Red Tim's ready. No, I like the opening sequence. I like that Laurie got her happy ending, and I like to think she's sitting somewhere with the Frank Hawkins looking at the cherry blossoms. Other than that, I hated everything else about the movie.
Why did they go to Washington D.C. though for the cherry blossom? Much cheaper.
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
But people say this movie's polarizing. I don't think it's polarizing. I think the vast majority of people hated this movie. I mean, the vast majority, if you look online, you do have outliers that say they liked it. The vast majority of Halloween fans hated this movie, from what I've been able to tell. I mean, that you got freaking petitions to reshoot it.
Yeah, that bothers me. That's no one's going to reshoot a movie.
No, nobody's going to reshoot it.
Someone doesn't want it, like it. Come on, that's ridiculous. I've been seeing that with Star Wars for the past 10 years. I can't take that. Talk about a life plot point. I cannot stand when people. I know Ken signed it, but more out of just like a.
I wanted to come clean on that.
Yeah, it was more out of fun. I'm sorry.
Emily is dying.
I know, look at Emily. You broke Emily.
She thought she fixed me. She was wrong.
No, I'm sorry. I blew up your spot there, Ken. I know you wanted to reveal that in a much simpler way, but I know you did it kind of for fun.
Yeah. I absolutely wanted to, I wanted to express my discontent after that second watch, and it was the only way I knew how, without going online and just venting about it and raging and being mean to people. So it was my way of doing it. I don't want it reshot. I think the people who want Star Wars reshot are idiots. Yeah. I added my name to that stupid thing, and I did not let them display my name because I'm ashamed of it. But I felt unhappy, and I needed to document that somewhere. So
he put the name as Ken Cook, like CENKOOK.
Yeah,
I should put my name on it.
Yeah, Steve Cook.
No.
But yeah, the whole reshoot thing is for silly. I hate when people do that. It's never going to happen. I mean,
no.
But
I mean, I've seen arguments.
I've seen Emily, I think we totally broke her.
I've seen people argue that you shouldn't be. You get these people online when somebody says they don't like the movie, and you just bash everything. There's no Halloween fan on earth that wanted this movie to be bad. There's nobody bashing this movie just to bash it. That makes no sense whatsoever. Every Halloween fan wanted this to be awesome.
Yeah. In fact, that's why people are so upset.
Exactly.
Because they wanted it to be such a thing. And they wanted it to be like, what a great trilogy that was. You know how sometimes, even if the movies before it aren't good, but the finale is so good, it kind of makes the other ones better. And the whole thing, it's like, to go out on this note, I think is what frustrates a lot of people.
I've seen people coming back when somebody's posting one of the horror movie groups I'm in and says they didn't like this movie. You just bash everything. No, everybody feels the same way, and they have valid reasons for it. We can point out writing inconsistency. We can point out the lack of Michael Myers, the lack of kills. I mean, there's tons of things we can point out. Nobody's bashing this movie just to bash it. And me and Brian are the most positive freaking people in the world when it comes to horror movies. If we're basically blasting this movie, there's a darn good reason for it. I honestly, if this movie was as truly polarizing 50-50, I would be questioning some of my thoughts on it and going,
and you have, if you go back historically, there are episodes where Tim and I are have these slight disagreements on this, and Tim will actually say, you know what, you're right, maybe if I look at it that way. And I've said the same thing the other way. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe that's a good point. But yeah, I think I mean, I wanted this one. I was so excited for this one because I mean, I was so excited back from when one came out in 2018. I liked Kill. I know a lot of people didn't like Kills as much as I did in this room. This, but I still like enjoyed it. But this one I think was just, I think if it was, like I said, if it was in like a lot of these plot points were put into a middle movie, not the end, might have been more accepted. I think but like people expected something, and this was not like Ken said, I think this was just not the chance, time, and place to try something. It's that's not where it is. That's not what this was about. You should have known that signing on to this trilogy, that like to Tim's point, it's like why were they throwing things on the wall to see what sticks? No, you should have had it planned out. You should have said, and if you would have had that trilogy planned out, they would have said, someone in that room would have had to say, you know what, maybe you shouldn't have all that in the last one. Maybe put that in the middle one. Give the third one the time to wrap it all up. Why? I never understood that whenever in a final film you introduce too many new things, like because now you're wondering, well, what happened to this? I mean, in this, they basically killed the new thing, but why? Like, did they? Why? I don't know. I just don't think you needed. You could have. That would have trimmed the movie. First of all, it was a long movie for a quote unquote slasher film, almost 2 hours. I mean, so that's. I mean, right then and there, it's like that you might want to question what's keeping that 2 hours. And from what I understand, they cut scenes out, like Darcy's kill got cut out. And I think there was a whole nother like I read somewhere, there was another sequence of, I mean, I'm sure people thrilled about it. There was a whole nother Corey and like Allison sequence that they cut out.
They should have cut out the first 50 minutes of the movie, in my opinion.
Well, except the first 10, that was good though.
Yeah,
but well, no, but Tim, you're gonna get Emily to bop down hard on the thing because you basically cut out all the Kyle scenes in there.
I know.
No, you could leave her in there.
Yeah, like, gotta keep her in there. They should have added her and taken out more. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that, I think that's, I mean, I think if everyone has I think the people that have the problem with it are all at least kind of in lockstep. They're all in the kind of the same reason. It's like, and because they wanted more Michael. They wanted a true Michael Myers, Laurie Strode conclusion, not necessarily
and I did want to say, if you do enjoy this movie, I don't have any problem with that. Yeah. Like, I'm happy for you. I wish I could have enjoyed it as much as you did. So I don't have any ill will towards anybody that liked this movie, or I don't think you're dumb. I don't think you're stupid. I mean, more power to you. God bless you. If you love this movie, great. I wish I was there with you. Yeah,
and I know you guys don't. You and Ken gave me a hard time about this, but seriously, when I did watch it the second time without the anticipation of anything, like I knew what I was going to expect. A lot more scenes that infuriated me the first time were a little more tolerable. I didn't agree with necessarily the choices of it. I would have still liked it to be completely different, but it wasn't like that. Once that expectation is gone of it, and I knew now, like, all right, let me just watch this for the podcast again to get some get better insight again. It wasn't as shocking, I guess. That it wasn't the shock element of it being so different. But I'm not trying to force you to watch it again, Tim, because I don't.
Don't watch it again, Tim. He's just desensitized. It still sucks. No, I mean, I think the problem is that at the end of the day, we expected a resolution, and we got a resolution, but it just wasn't what we wanted it to be. The journey getting to that resolution was the big part of that. Was the biggest part of that, and that's something that's just not fixable through a rewatch and better understanding. So I'm not mocking anyone saying you didn't get it right the first time, you got to watch it again. That's not what this is about. I think the bottom line is, and I think we said this before, I don't know if it was Texas Chainsaw when we watched it or if it was Halloween Kills, but if it's writing that requires me to watch it twice to really understand what the heck's going on, generally it's bad writing, right? If you're watching Twin Peaks and you got to watch it twice, okay, I forgive you, right? That's a whole different kind of directing. But when we're watching a slasher, you shouldn't have to watch it twice to get it. And I'm not talking about like the finesse points. I'm talking about the greater plot. So I feel like, again, good for you. I think it's good if you can get a little more comfortable with it, because I think for Tim and me, it's just kind of stuck in our craw and it's going to stay there. And that really sucks for this movie. What killed me the most on this one was just that it was Jamie Lee's final, right? If this was Halloween movie that didn't turn out, even if it was one that was, the last one, we've seen that before. We all know that crap is come and gone. Jason goes to hell and all. Freddy, who took him to hell? Wasn't it Freddy that took him to hell?
Yeah, I think they
all
both
these
went to
things
hell at some
happen,
point.
and then life goes on. We make another movie, and it gets better or it doesn't.
Yeah.
But this is a bit of a final thing for us, unless Jamie Lee decides to come back, which seems full.
Yeah, she's done with it, but they did say that Malek Akkad, he's making more movies. He's gonna make more Halloween movies. It's just not Blumhouse anymore.
So I'm not the moderator, but
Yeah.
if I may, unless you're going to ask this question later and we still have a ways to go.
No, there's not a lot left.
I'm curious how everybody.
I want Emily to eat.
Yeah, absolutely, Emily. You should
let Emily eat. Let Emily eat.
We're all for Emily eating. I'm curious how everybody would have approached this movie. What do you guys think?
That's funny. I did have that, Ken. Literally, I had the next thing I was going to do was our ratings, but after that was what would you have changed and what you thought would have made it better.
You take it, man. I don't want to replace you.
No, that's perfect. You know what, Ken?
Civil War podcast.
Listen, you got to live in infamy that your name is on that horriblychanged.org thing. So
I've already wrecked the family-friendly rating. I'm sorry. What was that, Emily?
Oh no, I was just saying I'm dying that you signed that petition still.
She is going to.
Not my proudest moment.
She is never going to let you live that down.
It was a way. It was a coping mechanism.
I didn't even sign the petition, Ken.
Look at
I'm Red Tim.
I know.
All right, Brian, back to you. I'm sorry. Finish it up.
No, that was it. That was what the next thing I wanted to do is we could do the ratings right after. I was just, and we kind of touched on it. Like, I mean, like to give an example, like I said, what would we have changed? I think I would have, if I can't change the order of the movies, I would have, and I just had to change this one specifically. And what I think would have made it better is just skip the nice Corey, like bullied Corey. I think bring him right to the brutish psycho Corey, because I think that would have tightened the film. It would have taken out all that unbelievability of like, how is he beating up Michael? How is he? I mean, hell, even make it so that the next time you see Corey, he's being released from prison or something on a technicality or something like that, or letting him take out, maybe he was in a mental institution and they just let him out now after a couple of years and he's okay, but he's still got the anger and the audience can still see it. Maybe the characters in the movie don't quite see it yet, something like that. Like it still could have worked in this present day with a couple of those kind of tweaks, I think, and adding more Michael, because if you take out like the half hour of wimpy Corey and start him right from brutal Corey along with brutal Michael in there, I think you may have made a more of a better finale, because you still would have had Michael. You still could have introduced something fresh and new. Everyone could have been a little more happier, I think, if you would have done that. I mean, ideally though, change wise, I wouldn't have made this the third movie. I would have made this the middle. But if we're just talking about strictly this one, that's the main thing I would have changed. So, Ken, since you stole my moderator thing for a second there, you can go next.
You definitely don't let me have the last word. That's a bad idea.
I want Emily to do, because she'll bring it back to a nice, like.
She will. I think that's a great way to go. She is the human in all this. So I give us quite a bit of thought. How would I have made this movie? So I'm not just going to change one thing. I'm going to take the whole thing and throw it out.
He's going to change that organ.
Thanks. Yeah, like you said, this is never going to go away.
Nope.
The way I think I would have handled this is I would have kind of flipped some things on its ear. Instead of Michael being in the asylum, like in the first movie, we would have started with her in the asylum. She's broken. All right. She's completely lost her mind over all this. It's too much. She's had too much loss. She's had too much fear and paranoia in her life. She's stuck there. All right. She's stuck there and she's waiting for him to come back. But now she really can't defend herself like she did in her little, safe house as she did in the second one. So I don't know how I go about it, but Michael would return. It wouldn't be 4 years. It would be next Halloween, as it should be in my mind. And Allison would be trying to defend her grandmother. In the process of Michael, who is going after Laurie specifically in this asylum or this mental health facility, she tries to defend her. In my mind, I think Allison dies trying to defend her grandmother. And from there, it just gets completely out of control. I think in the battle between Michael and Laurie, Haddonfield gets destroyed. and there's not much left over at the end of the day. It's a small town. I think you could pull that off. It's not like they're in Chicago. I did joke around about, Michael takes Chicago, kind of like Jason takes Manhattan. But
no, that was a plot point. That was one of the scripted movie, like in that book I read about all the fake things. There was one where literally he went through the city of Chicago.
You're not helping the cause right now, let me tell you. And you're not helping Tim's rage if you didn't know this already.
Well, I think Tim's mad at you because you forgot to include the cherry blossoms in your rewrite.
Well, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
She definitely would have had the same relationship with, was his name Frank? I forget.
Yeah.
With Frank. Michael would have killed him too, wiped that out in her life, and it would have been just the two of them. That's all that's left, right? That takes it to the final climactic battle between the two. And just to finish off Enraging Emily, they would die together, in a climactic battle of some sort. In my mind, they have to go together, but I respect it not having to be that way, Emily. That's kind of how I would have gone.
Well, you really took this change.org to heart. You a
lot of rage.
Yeah,
a lot of rage there.
All right. Well, let's see. Cleanse the palate a little. Go to Cone, and then we'll go back to Red Tim, and then back to Emily. So we'll go.
For me, I would lean more into, again, the mythology. I mean, you have a town that's grieving, a town that's hurting, as because everybody kept blaming them for everything going on. And I feel like you would need to lean into the strength of saying, this is what powers Michael Myers. This is what he's feeding off of. And, whether or not you build up to a mob mentality of trying to take him down or something. Again, the whole ending of, the whole town somehow, came out and forced to help dispose of the body. So it's, I don't know. It's tough because I feel like you've got to lean into the supernatural more. I mean, that to me feels like the only solution here because they hinted at it for so long. But that's me. Oh, and also I just want to point out, did all of you notice the sign under the bridge that said "Love lives today," which I guess was an homage to the
Yes, I did say that was pretty
evil
funny.
dice today.
Yeah.
So that should all be our motto going.
Emily wrote that. She probably went in and wrote that. All right. Let's get Red Tim out of the way here before.
Red Tim. So I've got three different approaches. I've got the super safe approach, I've got the middle compromise approach, and I've got the out there approach. Super safe approach I've already mentioned. I would just have Michael come back, start killing people, more kills, more gore, standard Halloween structure slasher till final showdown with Laurie. That's the safe one. It's probably what I would prefer out of all of them. On the more extreme side, I think you lean into the whole Silver Shamrock thing. I mean, what's weird is they even hinted at it with the credits looking like Halloween 3. They've made references to Halloween 3 in the previous films. They've made reference to Michael's mask being part of his power, even in the first movie. So really lean into that and make that, an explanation for his power is that this mask is somehow cursed or whatever, and go totally into that direction. I think that would have been super cool, and it would have satisfied fans of Halloween 3.
Actually, real quick, Tim, before you give your last one, did you see the article where they said what his original tag to the ending was? Where the ending, he was going to tag on a thing after the whole thing and have Laurie in the scene. They were going to go fade out and fade back into a Silver Shamrock factory, showing all the three masks going through, and then Michael mask started to come out.
Yeah, see, I think that would have been cool. I would have liked that.
Do you know why he said he didn't do that? Because he goes, "Oh, I don't think everyone would have thought that was too cheesy." He liked that. The one thing that would have probably made the fans go out, everyone go out kind of smiling.
Yeah,
he took that away. But
I would leave into that.
Yeah,
and the compromise one is, if you didn't want to get rid of the Corey storyline at all, I think you could have, like you said, jumped to evil Corey, have him be a serial killer in the town. He's killing people. I think it could have been interesting to see the dynamic with this town that's already on edge, doesn't know where Michael is, and then these murders start happening, not knowing it's not Michael. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And then Michael's killing at the same time.
Yeah, that's
and even Michael's confused, like, who the hell is this guy stealing my thunder? Yeah. And you have both of these serial killers operating in the town at the same time. And then Laurie doesn't even know who is who. I mean, I think you could have done a lot with that.
Yeah.
Why you would devote, almost an hour of the movie trying to set up a character that you're just going to kill off, really, at the end of the day, has no bearing on the story whatsoever. Think about it. If you take Corey out of this movie, what has he actually done? I mean, there's no
implication. The first 50 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. So I mean, there's there's no implication there to why if you're gonna spend the entire movie setting this character up, why would you just kill him off?
Yeah,
It doesn't
he
make
never
any
even
sense.
fixed Allison's car like he said he would. For God's sake, he was
Yeah,
useless.
so that would be my 3 approaches. I don't know that which anyone would have been better, but it's any of those approaches would have been better than what we got, I think. Personal opinion.
All right, let's finish it off on the rational note here that Emily always seems to bring the positives into these discussions.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen if the director wanted Corey and wanted that whole storyline. I wish it would have just been part 1, part 2, and taken more time with it. And the second movie you could have done, or the first, depending on what you did. I would have just liked to have seen maybe a more cohesive story, but. Yeah, no, that's just part 1, part 2.
I like that though. I like that whole like the Harry Potter angle of that. Like because yes, sometimes because there's so much to finalize a one story like that. When people try and rush it, a lot of people said that's funny. Again, my comparison to Star Wars. A lot of people said that almost they should have the original cut of Rise of Skywalker was close to 5 hours. And they. They massacred it into the and they cut a lot of stuff out, and they said a lot of people would have benefited by doing that. But, that would break the whole Star Wars mold. You can't do that. It's only episodes and whatever. But, but yeah, I kind of like that idea too about the breaking that up, because I think they tried to put too much into, and even then at almost 2 hours, they couldn't do it because, when you try and start rushing plot points that you're first introducing, you can't do that to an audience. They not in this day and age. The audience needs to like see stuff. They want to get it. They don't want to have to, especially in a slasher, they don't want to have to think too much about what's going on. Why is this person here? Why is that happening? They just want to see slashing and gore, and
especially because it was Jamie Lee Curtis's last go at it, that I would have just liked to have seen maybe if she's happy with it, great. It's her role, it's her thing, but I would have just liked to have seen that fleshed out just a little bit more.
All right, so we'll just wrap this up, which we'll do. We'll go around. We'll get a rating on this movie out of 5 stars, and then we'll do your ranking, which I have a feeling is probably going to be the same for everybody as the ranking. But so what, I'll start this one. I give this one, and me, I'm very generous usually with these. But it hurts me to have to do this, but I'm giving it 2 out of 5 stars. And that's hard for me because I like to always find I give a lot of stuff to benefit of the doubt. I tend to be a bit of an apologist sometimes, but I have to be honest in terms of what I wanted. I have to keep that into a factor. So I did that too. And my ranking is very simple. It's the 2018 Halloween Kills, and then this one, 1, 2, and 3 in that order. So we'll go to you, Ken, next.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very proud of you, Brian, for being able to make that difficult statement. I agree. I think it's a 2 out of 5. I don't think I could go with a 1 out of 5. That's just cruel. And there's a lot of great production value. And like I said, there was a lot of good acting. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is always great. I can't think of an actor in that movie where I was just utterly put off with their performance. Everybody was good. So, it'd be tough to give them anything lower than that. The 2 it's painful even because there was so much goodness in that movie when it comes to performance of the actors and, some of the special effects and just overall the feel of Haddonfield wasn't terrible. But the writing was just inconsistent. I'll easily take those 3 stars away for that, right? It was completely incoherent. It feels like they threw a whole bunch of stuff at the wall. They were writing by committee without trying to ever really reconcile the quote unquote cool ideas that Tim was talking about into a coherent plot. And like I said, at the end of the day, when you're making Halloween Ends, you've got a sacred responsibility. You should have to take a stinking oath before making this movie that you're going to do the right thing. And I don't feel like that was accomplished. Again, I'm not trying to blame anybody, but it didn't happen. The bottom line is that movie is not what the fans were looking for. And it wasn't just not what they were looking for, but it was nowhere close. So 2 out of 5 for me, easily. But I wouldn't go any lower than that because it does have good production value.
I know your ranking. Oh, real quick, I get your ranking on all 3.
Ranking relative to what?
No, just in the order of the trilogy, like the.
Oh, this latest trilogy at the bottom easily. I like the other 2 better.
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I would
like
go
mine
1,
was.
2, 3 from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, okay.
That makes sense to me.
Okay. All right, Cone.
Ah, goodness, what was the question? It's got late.
What was I know? All right, we'll finish. What was your ranking on this 5
Oh.
out of 5 stars, and then what was your ranking of the
Right.
for the-
Honestly, I would go 3 out of 5. Again, it's a movie where I didn't hate it, but I was disappointed and confused upon first viewing. Second time, like I said, I took my daughter, went to a theater. I mean, it's a complete movie. There's gaps in logic, there's inconsistencies, but from a production value, from a story, there's a story there. So it's for what it was. Again, the cast elevated the material. It's a legit movie. So same thing. I'd have to go Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. I mean, again, Halloween captured the original perfectly. Kills up the body count for sure. I mean, just that whole opening with the firemen and ambulance crew, and yeah, so that's me.
Okay, Tim.
I don't give a shit. I gave it 1 out of 5 stars. I hated this movie.
Tim's like, that's it. Tim's going full blown.
Unless I gave Halloween Kills 1 star, and then in which case I would give this movie 0 stars.
I don't think you. I think you and Ken gave that 2 stars, if I remember correctly.
Okay, then this definitely gets.
I
a
can
1
look
star
back.
for
I got to
me.
look back, but
Yeah, sorry. Now, granted, I mean that's in relation to this trilogy. Obviously, it's not a 1 out of 5 star movie out of all horror movies. I'm not saying that, but for me, just on a disappointment scale, 1 out of 5, I was pissed off at this movie. I hate it. I don't like it. I was far kinder to it during this roundtable than my mind is making it out to be, but I have to be quiet because the kids are in bed and also my throat's shut. Otherwise, I would be screaming into the microphone and cussing enough to put an explicit warning tag on this episode. But since I managed to restrain myself, 1 out of 5 stars, and we'll leave it at that. Ranking easily, Halloween 2018 was by far the best of this trilogy. Halloween Kills looks like a freaking masterpiece by comparison now. I might have to bump my star rating up on that one compared to this, and then this one at the bottom.
okay, Emily.
I'm gonna do I would probably 2.8 or 3. Like I'm in between there. I didn't hate it as much as everyone else did. I definitely I agree with like the plot holes and all, like 100% agree with all of that. But I still enjoyed it enough to do 2.8 or 3 because I think the acting was very strong, and I just felt like a sense of with Jamie Lee Curtis ending the thing, and I so that, but I think I'm gonna do Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, only because I don't remember Halloween. I'm trying to think. Like I remember that trailer of her, like, or maybe that was Halloween Kills. I don't remember Halloween. I have to go back and watch, but I remember just loving all the gore in Halloween Kills. So I'm gonna do that Halloween, then Halloween Ends.
Yeah. I definitely can't wait till you see that in Human Resources one. That one's got great, like, old school Fangoria gore because they produced it, so it's good.
Love
But
it.
all right, well, this is very fun. I know it went on long. I apologize for keeping everyone on so long, but I think it was a good round table as always. This is always the thing. I think we need to do this for like all the big movies, as long as Emily will have us.
Are you kidding? As long as you'll have me.
Oh my God, you're welcome. I was gonna say too, like, we may all disagree with things, but I can tell you, us, the 4 of us, always we were in complete agreement how much we adore you, and thank you so much for always coming on and hanging out with us, because it's good to not just, I mean, of course, because you're a friend, but also because you have such a good insight too of the other side of the the actual movie making stuff. So
well, I really appreciate that. Thank you. I love all of you guys very much, and it's always a pleasure to come on. So thank you.
even when we starve you for 2 hours.
Starving. No, I'm fine.
So, and Ken, stay away from those change.orgs, please, because you don't want to.
I'm never telling you guys.
That was, I don't think, of all the times we've seen Emily crack up, that one, she just like was off screen. She was laughing. So
Now,
hard.
like
That was
every
great.
time we do a podcast episode, Ken's going to sign a petition for us to re-record.
I
it.
know he's gonna. Can you guys re-record this, please? That's
Great.
it.
I'll
We need
get
to
3
re-record.
votes. Wonderful.
Yeah.
They won't go anywhere.
Yeah, that was good. But yeah, no, I hope everyone enjoyed these roundtables. I think I always have fun. I hope everyone else has fun doing them, and hope you guys have fun listening to them. And Tim, we got to give extra props to Tim, because he has been like, I don't know how he struggled through. Not only did he like struggle through this with the bad voice, but like an hour of dismemberment beforehand. So
yeah, I was really bummed because I didn't want to be low energy on this one by any means, because this was I was looking forward to this round table, but man, just whatever this thing is I've got has just laid me low for the entire weekend. So apologies if I was a little low energy, but I tried.
No, you were just still good though, Tim. You still always find a way. Your tones may be slightly less dulcety.
Oh, the show must go on, right?
Yeah, but you still managed to fight through.